A poor man faces a cruel truth. The woman he loves has been lying from the very beginning. She's not a struggling girl, she's a billionaire, and every moment between them was just a cruel experiment. When the truth explodes, Lucas must face the hardest question. Can love survive this betrayal? Follow the story to the end, hit like and comment what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now, let's begin this emotional journey together. The fluorescent lights of Morton's garage buzzed like dying wasps, casting sickly yellow shadows across the oil-stained concrete. Lucas Reed wiped his hands on a rag that had stopped being cleaned sometime around 2019, squinting at the transmission he'd been wrestling with for the past 3 hours. His lower back screamed in protest as he straightened, vertebrae popping like bubble wrap. "Mister, Henderson's gonna lose his mind when he sees this estimate," he muttered to himself, eyeing the cracked housing that would need replacing. The part alone would run close to $400, and that was if he could find it used. "Talking to yourself again, Lucas?" Jimmy called from across the garage, his round face appearing from behind a lifted Chevy. "That's how it starts, man. Next thing you know, you're arguing with the voices." Lucas flipped him off without heat, earning a laugh from his coworker. The garage was emptying out. Quitting time had come and gone 20 minutes ago, but Lucas had stayed late. He always stayed late on Wednesdays. Mia had art class until 6, which gave him an extra hour to chase the overtime that kept their heads above water. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He fished it out with greasy fingers, seeing his mother's name on the screen. "Hey, Ma."
"Oh, Lucas, honey, Mia's ready whenever you are. She made you a painting. It's very colorful." He could hear the diplomatic pause, could picture his 7-year-old daughter's creation, probably another abstract explosion of every color in the box. Mia approached art like she approached life, with aggressive enthusiasm and zero restraint. "Tell her I'll be there in 15, and Ma, thanks for picking her up. I owe you." "You don't owe me anything. She's my grandbaby." "But you do look tired, Lucas. You're working too hard." "Bills don't pay themselves." "I know, sweetie, I know." He ended the call and surveyed his workspace. The transmission could wait until tomorrow. Henderson's car had been sitting for 3 days already. One more night wouldn't kill him. Lucas cleaned up his station with practiced efficiency, returned his tools to their designated spots in the rolling cabinet, and clocked out on the ancient time card system that Morton stubbornly refused to upgrade. The October air hit him like a slap when he stepped outside, cold enough to make him wish he'd grabbed his heavier jacket that morning. His truck sat in the corner of the lot, a 2006 Ford F-150, with a passenger door that didn't quite match the rest of the body and a transmission that shifted with all the grace of a garbage disposal eating silverware. But it ran, and it was paid off, which made it perfect. The drive to his mother's house took him through the heart of Millbrook, past the closed-down textile mill that had once employed half the town, past the Dollar General that had replaced Morrison's Hardware, past the Mexican restaurant that had replaced the diner where he'd taken Sarah on their first date a lifetime ago. Change came to small towns slowly, then all at once, like rust. Mia exploded out of his mother's front door before he'd even put the truck in park, her small body a missile of purple jacket and untied shoelaces. "Daddy!" She crashed into his legs as he climbed out, nearly sending him sprawling. "I made you a picture of the ocean!" "Except I made the ocean purple because regular blue is boring, and Miss Amanda said it was very creative, but I should try to use more realistic colors next time, but I don't think she understands that art is about expression, you know?" Lucas scooped her up despite the protest from his back, breathing in the strawberry shampoo his mother must have used on her after school. "Is that right? 7 years old and you're already an art critic?" "I don't know what that means, but probably yes." She wrapped her arms around his neck, squeezing tight. "You smell like garage." Shocking. His mother appeared in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of her living room. Linda Reed was 63 and had the kind of weathered prettiness that came from a hard life met with determined grace. "You feeding this child actual dinner, or is it cereal night?" "Ma, it's Wednesday. Wednesday is breakfast for dinner night." "That's not a real thing, Lucas. It is in our house." He set Mia down, keeping one hand on her shoulder as she vibrated with stored energy. "We're having pancakes with chocolate chips and bacon," Mia added, "the really crispy kind that's almost burned but not quite."
Linda shook her head, but she was smiling. Well, I suppose it's better than nothing. There's leftover pot roast if you change your mind. I'll send some home with you. You don't have to. I'm sending it. Argue with the wall. She disappeared inside and returned with a covered dish that was still warm. And Lucas, try to get some sleep tonight. You've got shadows under your shadows. He took the pot roast because experience had taught him that arguing with his mother was like arguing with gravity, technically possible, but ultimately pointless. Thanks, Ma. Come on, Mia Bug. Let's get you home. The drive back to their apartment took 10 minutes. Mia talked for 9 of them. A stream of consciousness report on her day that touched on recess politics, the injustice of having to learn multiplication, and her friend Sophie's new hamster that was probably going to escape and live in the walls and have a million babies. Their apartment was on the second floor of a converted house on Maple Street. 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom with windows that rattled when the wind blew, and a landlord who responded to maintenance requests with the speed of continental drift. But it was theirs, and the neighbors were quiet, and Mrs. Chen downstairs sometimes left them homemade dumplings on their doormat. Lucas unlocked the door and Mia shot inside, already shedding her jacket on the floor, despite his daily reminders about the coat hook that existed for exactly this purpose. Homework first, he called after her. Then we eat. But Daddy, it's Wednesday. Wednesday is a free night. Wednesday is pancake night. Homework still happens. He picked up her jacket and hung it up, then moved through their small living room, turning on lamps. The space was shabby but clean, furnished with a thrift store couch that sagged in the middle and a coffee table Mia had covered with stickers. Her drawings papered the walls, held up with thumbtacks. A gallery of purple oceans and stick figure families, and what she claimed was a horse but looked more like a potato with legs. He found her at the kitchen table, already pulling workbooks from her backpack with the dramatic sighs of the deeply oppressed. Math or reading first? He asked, washing his hands at the sink. Neither. Can we skip to the pancakes? Nice try. Reading. 20 minutes. She groaned like he'd asked her to move boulders, but she opened her book. Something about a magic treehouse that she'd read at least 3 times already. Lucas left her to it and started pulling ingredients from the cupboard. Flour, sugar, baking powder, salt. The routine of it was soothing, meditative, measuring and mixing while Mia muttered along with her book at the table, sounding out the harder words. His phone rang just as he was heating the griddle. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but on the off chance it was a potential new customer, he picked up. This is Lucas. Mr. Reed? The voice was female, professional, unfamiliar. This is Jennifer Wu from Millbrook Elementary. I'm calling about Mia's upcoming parent-teacher conference. We have you scheduled for next Tuesday at 4:30, but I wanted to confirm that still works for you. Lucas mentally shuffled his schedule. Tuesday was usually his late day, but he could swap with Jimmy. Yeah, that works. Everything okay? Oh yes, Mia's doing wonderfully. We just like to check in with parents regularly. We'll see you Tuesday. He hung up and found Mia watching him with wide eyes. Am I in trouble? No, baby, just a regular meeting. He ruffled her hair. You done reading? She nodded, and he traded her the book for a mixing bowl. Chocolate chips? Obviously. They made pancakes together, Mia standing on a chair to help pour batter onto the griddle, making shapes that were supposed to be Mickey Mouse but looked more like Rorschach tests. Lucas fried bacon until it was exactly the right level of crispy but not quite burned, and they ate at the kitchen table while Mia recounted the entire plot of the book she'd just read, as if he hadn't already heard it twice before. After dinner came bath time, which turned into a minor flood when Mia decided her mermaid Barbie needed to practice diving. Then pajamas, teeth brushing with the purple toothbrush she'd picked because it matched the ocean in her painting, and finally stories in her bed. Her room was the smaller of the 2 bedrooms, but she'd claimed it as her kingdom. The walls were pale yellow, a color she'd chosen herself, and covered with more of her artwork, with photos of her and Lucas, with a shelf of books and stuffed animals and the rocks she collected from the playground because each one was special. Lucas settled onto the edge of her bed, picking up the book from her nightstand. Where were we? Chapter 7. The part where Ramona gets in trouble for copying her sister. He found the page and started reading, doing the voices that made her giggle. 15 minutes in, her eyes started drooping. By 20 minutes, she was out, one hand curled under her cheek, her dark hair spread across the pillow. Lucas sat there for a moment, just watching her breathe. 7 years old. How the hell was she already 7? It felt like just yesterday he'd been standing in a hospital room, holding a 6-pound bundle and wondering how he was supposed to keep a whole human alive when he could barely keep himself together. Sarah had been gone before Mia's first birthday. Overdose in a motel room 3 towns over, her demons finally winning the fight she'd been losing for years. Lucas had been angry at first, furious, then heartbroken, then numb, and finally, eventually, something resembling acceptance. Mia didn't remember her mother, which was both a mercy and a tragedy. He kissed his daughter's forehead and turned off the light, leaving her door cracked open the way she liked it. Then he retreated to the living room and collapsed onto the couch, pulling out his phone to check their bank balance. The numbers hadn't magically improved since the last time he'd looked. Rent was due in 6 days. The electric bill was already overdue by a week. His paycheck would cover both, barely, which meant the dentist appointment he'd been putting off would have to wait another month. Lucas scrubbed his hands over his face, feeling every one of his 32 years. There had to be something else he could do. Extra shifts at the garage, maybe? Or that weekend work old man Turner had mentioned needing help with his tractor. Anything to build up even a small cushion, some breathing room between them and disaster. His stomach growled, reminding him that he'd given most of the pancakes to Mia and had forgotten to feed himself properly. The leftover pot roast sat in the fridge, calling to him, but he was too tired to heat it up. He grabbed a cold piece of bacon from the pan instead and ate it standing at the kitchen counter, scrolling through his phone without really seeing it. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Mrs. Chen's television through the floor. This was his life. Work, Mia, bills, sleep, repeat. Not glamorous, not exciting, but it was stable. And stable was a fucking miracle after the chaos of Sarah's final years. He was about to head to bed when his phone buzzed with a text from Jimmy. Martinez canceled tomorrow. Slot at 9 a.m. open if you want it. Extra work meant extra money. Lucas replied immediately, "I'll take it." "Thanks, man." He set an alarm for 5:30 and brushed his teeth, checked that the front door was locked, made sure Mia's nightlight was still on. The routine of it was comforting, each small task a stitch in the fabric that held their life together. In his own room, barely bigger than Mia's and furnished with a bed, a dresser, and ambitions of someday affording a nightstand, Lucas peeled off his work clothes and fell into bed. Sleep came fast, dreamless and heavy. The alarm felt like it went off 5 minutes later. Thursday unspooled like every other Thursday. Up before dawn, shower, instant coffee, so strong it could strip paint, wake Mia up, and negotiate her into clothes that matched. Breakfast was cereal and orange juice, while she told him about the dream she'd had involving talking dogs and a school bus that could fly. He dropped her at school at 7:45, kissed her goodbye, reminded her to be good, and watched her run toward the building with her backpack bouncing. Then it was back to the garage for the 8-hour shift that somehow always turned into 9 or 10. The Martinez job turned out to be a nightmare. A timing belt replacement that should have been straightforward, except the previous owner had apparently attempted their own repairs with what Lucas could only assume was a hammer and blind optimism. By noon, his knuckles were bleeding, and he'd added at least 5 new words to his personal cursing vocabulary. "Lunch break," Jimmy called across the garage. "Taco truck's here." Lucas glanced at his watch, 12:15. He should eat, but the Martinez car needed to be done by 3. "I'll grab something in a minute. You go ahead." "Man, you're going to waste away to nothing." But Jimmy went, leaving Lucas alone with the engine and its mysteries. He worked through lunch, making progress inch by stubborn inch. By 2:30, the belt was on, the timing was set, and the engine purred like it was supposed to. Lucas allowed himself exactly 30 seconds of satisfaction before starting the cleanup process. His phone rang as he was washing his hands. The school. His heart jumped into his throat. Calls from school during the day were never good news. "This is Lucas Reed." "Mr. Reed, this is Nurse Patterson. Mia's fine," the woman said immediately, bless her. "She's got a little stomach bug, though, running a low fever. Can you come pick her up?" Relief and concern warred in his chest. "Yeah, of course. Give me 20 minutes." He found Morton in the office, explained the situation. His boss waved him off without complaint. Morton was a hard ass about quality work, but he had 3 kids of his own and understood that children trumped carburetors. Mia was waiting in the nurse's office, looking small and miserable on the vinyl couch. Her face brightened when she saw him. Daddy, my tummy hurts and I threw up in the bathroom, but I made it to the toilet so I didn't get any on the floor, and Nurse Patterson gave me crackers, but they tasted like sadness. Well, Lucas crouched in front of her, pressing the back of his hand to her forehead. Warm, but not alarmingly so. Okay, Mia Bug, let's get you home. She leaned into him as they walked to the truck, her usual bounce completely deflated. He buckled her in, cranked the heat, and drove home going exactly the speed limit for once. The rest of Thursday disappeared into the specific hell of caring for a sick kid. Mia threw up twice more, cried because her stomach hurt, cried because she was tired, cried because the television show she wanted to watch wasn't on Netflix. Lucas held her hair back, brought her water and crackers, changed her sheets when she didn't make it to the bathroom in time, and tried not to think about the work hours he was missing. By evening, she'd fallen asleep on the couch, curled up with her favorite blanket and a mixing bowl nearby just in case. Lucas sat on the floor beside her, one hand resting on her leg, watching some documentary about ocean life with the volume turned low. This was parenting, he thought. Not the highlight reel moments of birthday parties and first days of school, but this. The vomit and the laundry and the worry that maybe it was something worse than a stomach bug. Maybe he should take her to urgent care just to be safe. Except urgent care cost money they didn't really have. She slept through this night, though, and Friday morning her fever was gone. Still pale, still tired, but keeping down toast and ginger ale. Lucas called into work. Thankfully, Friday was his scheduled day off anyway, and they had what Mia declared a lazy day. They watched movies, they built a fort out of couch cushions. She drew pictures while he did laundry and paid bills online, moving money around like a shell game, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and hoping neither of them noticed. By Friday afternoon, Mia was mostly back to normal, bouncing on the couch and begging to go to the park. Tomorrow, Lucas promised. If you're still feeling good tomorrow. That's like 1,000,000 years away. You'll survive. Saturday morning dawned cold and clear, the kind of October day that felt like nature's apology for the coming winter. Mia woke up chattering, fever completely gone, appetite returned with a vengeance. Lucas made her eggs and toast and watched her inhale them, relieved. Park? She asked hopefully. He checked the time. 9:30. He could spare a couple hours. Go get your jacket and your shoes and actually tie them this time. 20 minutes later, they were at Millbrook Park, a scrubby patch of grass with aging playground equipment and a basketball court where teenagers gathered to smoke and pretend they were tougher than they were. Mia made a beeline for the swings, her previous illness apparently forgotten in the face of the urgent need to swing high enough to touch the sky. Lucas pushed her, listening to her shriek with laughter, feeling something in his chest unclench. These moments, this was what it was all about. Not the money he didn't have or the bills he couldn't quite pay, but this, his daughter's joy, the morning sun on his face, the simple fact that they were okay. Higher, Daddy, higher! He pushed higher. After the swings came the slide, then the monkey bars where she made it exactly 3 rungs before dropping and announcing she'd try again next time. They explored the small duck pond where Mia insisted on counting every single duck and naming them all after breakfast foods. That one's pancake, that one's waffle, that one's toast. Very creative. The little one is syrup. Get it? Because he's with pancake and waffle? I get it. They sat on a bench, sharing a granola bar Lucas had shoved in his pocket, watching the ducks paddle around. A young woman was feeding them on the other side of the pond, throwing what looked like bits of bread despite the sign that specifically said not to feed the ducks bread. Daddy, why can't we feed ducks bread? It's not good for them, makes them sick. Oh, Mia considered this. Should we tell that lady? The woman in question looked young, maybe mid-20s, wearing jeans and a jacket that had seen better days. Something about her posture read as defeated, shoulders curved in, head down, like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. Maybe she doesn't know, Mia said, her voice going soft the way it did when she was worried about something. Before Lucas could respond, his daughter had hopped off the bench and was marching around the pond with all the confidence of someone who'd never met a stranger. Excuse me, miss, you're not supposed to feed the ducks bread. It makes them sick. The woman turned, startled. Lucas jogged to catch up with his daughter, ready to apologize for the unsolicited advice. But the woman just smiled. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me. Her voice was quiet, a little hoarse. Up close, Lucas could see she looked tired. Not just regular tired, but the bone-deep exhaustion that came from carrying too much for too long. Her clothes were clean but worn, and there was something fragile in the way she held herself. "Mia," he said, putting a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Sorry, she's very passionate about duck welfare." "No, it's okay. I really didn't know." The woman looked at the bread in her hand like she wasn't sure what to do with it now. "There's a machine by the parking lot that sells duck food," Mia offered helpfully. "It's only $1, and it's the good kind that doesn't hurt their tummies." The woman's smile faltered slightly. "That's good to know. Maybe next time." Something in her expression made Lucas think she didn't have $1 to spare, and he felt an unexpected kinship. He knew that look. He'd worn it himself more times than he could count. "Come on, Mia Bug," he said. "We should head home. Lunchtime." They walked back to the truck, Mia waving enthusiastically at the woman who waved back with a smaller, sadder gesture. Lucas couldn't quite shake the image of her as he drove home, something about the defeated slope of her shoulders nagging at him. The weekend passed. Sunday was laundry and grocery shopping with Mia, carefully calculating costs and putting back the name-brand cereal in favor of the store brand. Dinner was spaghetti with meat sauce, enough to last them through Monday, too. Monday came too fast. Back to the grind, up before dawn, coffee, kid wrangling, school drop-off, garage. The Martinez car was finished and picked up. A Subaru came in with mysterious electrical issues. Lucas traced wires until his eyes crossed, and finally found a corroded ground that was causing all the trouble. Tuesday, he had to leave work early for the parent-teacher conference. Miss Amanda turned out to be a bright-eyed woman in her late 20s who clearly loved her job and had nothing but good things to say about Mia. She's creative, enthusiastic, and very social. Her reading is above grade level. We're working on impulse control and staying in her seat, but honestly, she's 7. They're all working on that. Lucas left the school feeling lighter than he had in days. His kid was okay. More than okay. She was thriving. Wednesday night found him working late again, chasing those extra hours. Jimmy had already gone home. The garage was quiet except for the radio playing classic rock at low volume and the occasional clang of tools. His stomach growled around 7:30, reminding him that he'd forgotten lunch again. There was leftover spaghetti at home, but that would require leaving, and he wanted to finish this oil change before he clocked out. 15 minutes later, his phone rang. His mother. "Ma, what's up?" "Lucas, honey, I hate to ask, but can you pick up milk on your way home? Mia and I made cookies and we used the last of it." "You're at my place?" "You asked me to watch her tonight. Wednesday? Your late night?" Shit, he'd completely forgotten. "Right. Yeah, sorry, it's been a long day. I'll grab milk." He finished up as quickly as he could, hands still greasy when he clocked out at 8:15. The nearest store was the Mini-Mart on 5th, overpriced but close. Lucas pulled into the lot, noting the flickering fluorescent lights and the group of kids loitering near the entrance trying to look menacing. Inside, the store was bright and too warm, smelling of hot dogs that had been rotating on their metal spikes since sometime during the Reagan administration. Lucas grabbed milk from the cooler, paid with cash he'd withdrawn at lunch, and headed back out. The diner next door caught his eye as he walked past. Sal's Place, a fixture in Millbrook since the 70s, known for mediocre food served with surly efficiency. The lights were still on, a few cars in the lot. He should go straight home. His mother was watching Mia. The milk would get warm. But something made him pause, made him look through the window. And there she was. The woman from the park, sitting alone in a booth near the back, staring at a menu with an expression that spoke of someone doing mental math and coming up short. Lucas hesitated. Wasn't his business. She was a stranger. He should go home. Instead, he found himself pushing through the diner door, the bell jingling overhead. The woman looked up, recognition flickering across her face. Then something like embarrassment, like she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't. Lucas walked over before he could talk himself out of it. "Hey, duck lady, right?" She blinked. Yes. Your daughter, she taught me about proper duck nutrition. She's very serious about it." He shifted the milk from one hand to the other, suddenly feeling awkward. "You eating?" "I was
thinking about it. The way she said it, the careful neutrality, told him everything he needed to know. She was counting pennies in her head, trying to figure out what she could afford. Mind if I join you? I could use some coffee. Surprise crossed her face. Oh, you don't have to. I know I don't have to, but it's been a long day and I could use the company. He slid into the booth across from her before she could protest further, setting the milk on the table. The waitress appeared, an older woman named Deb who'd worked at Sal's longer than Lucas had been alive. Coffee, Lucas? Please, and I'll take a burger, fries. He looked at the woman across from him. You eating? I'm not very hungry. Her stomach chose that moment to growl audibly, betraying her. 2 burgers, Lucas told Deb, 2 fries, and whatever she wants to drink. It's just water, the woman said quietly. Deb nodded and disappeared. The woman looked at Lucas with something between gratitude and distrust. You don't know me. No, he agreed, but you looked like you could use a meal, and I could use the company. Call it even. She studied him for a long moment, and he studied her back. Up close, in better light, he could see she was probably in her mid-20s. Pretty, in an understated way. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, minimal makeup, eyes that were trying hard not to show how tired she was. I'm Lucas, he offered. Claire, she said after a pause. Nice to officially meet you, Claire. My daughter's Mia, in case you couldn't tell from her yelling at you about bread. That pulled a small smile. She seems sweet. She's a menace, a lovable menace, but still. Deb returned with coffee and water. Lucas doctored his with cream and sugar, while Claire wrapped her hands around her water glass like she was cold. So what brings you to scenic Millbrook? Don't get a lot of newcomers here. Just passing through? Yeah? Heading somewhere specific? Honestly, I don't know yet. There was a story there, something heavy in the spaces between her words. Lucas sipped his coffee and didn't push. He knew about heavy stories, knew that sometimes people needed to carry them quietly for a while before they could set them down. How long have you lived here? Claire asked, clearly trying to shift the focus. My whole life, born at Millbrook General, raised on Oakwood Street, went to Millbrook High, real small-town cliché. You like it? Lucas considered. It's home, not perfect, but it's what I know. Good place to raise a kid, mostly. Everyone knows everyone, which is both the best and worst thing about it. Sounds nice. Knowing people. Can be. Can also mean everyone knows your business whether you want them to or not. Their food arrived, burgers thick and greasy, fries golden and salted within an inch of their lives. Lucas watched Claire look at her plate like she couldn't quite believe it was real. Eat, he said gently, before it gets cold. She picked up the burger with both hands and took a bite, and Lucas saw her eyes close briefly, just for a second, in something like relief. When had she eaten last? Yesterday? The day before? They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. The burger was good. Sal's might not be fancy, but they knew their way around ground beef and a griddle. Lucas was halfway through his fries when he realized Claire had finished her entire burger and was eyeing the remaining fries on her plate, like she wanted to save them for later. So what do you do, Lucas? She asked. I'm a mechanic. Work at Morton's garage down on Industrial. Mostly cars, some small engines. It's steady work. Do you like it? Like it? He hadn't really thought about that question in years. I'm good at it. That's enough most days. Pays the bills, keeps food on the table. Can't really ask for more than that. You could, though. He looked at her surprised. What? Ask for more. Want more. You don't have to settle for just enough. Maybe in theory, real world's a little different. Is it? There was something in her voice, a challenge, or maybe a question. Lucas ate a fry and considered his answer. When you're responsible for a kid, when it's just you and her against the world, enough starts looking pretty good. Stability beats dreams most of the time. That's sad. That's life. But he said it without heat, because she wasn't wrong. It was sad. He'd had dreams once, back before Sarah got pregnant, before everything fell apart. He'd wanted to open his own shop, maybe get certified to work on motorcycles. Stupid dreams, kid dreams. What about you? He asked. What do you do? Claire looked down at her plate. I'm between things right now.
Hence the passing through. Hence the passing through. Family around here? No. The word was flat, final. No family. Lucas knew better than to push that particular door if she wasn't opening it. Well, Millbrook's not the worst place to land for a bit. Rent's cheap, people are mostly friendly, and the diner serves breakfast all day. Is that your sales pitch for the town? Is it working? She smiled, a real one this time, and it transformed her face completely. Maybe a little. They talked while they finished their food, small talk, surface talk, the kind of conversation two strangers have when they're both trying to be polite while maintaining defensive distance. Lucas told her about Mia's school, about the garage, about nothing important. Claire listened more than she talked, asking questions but offering little about herself. When Deb brought the check, Lucas grabbed it before Claire could. "Let me at least split it," Claire protested. "Next time," Lucas said, pulling out his wallet. "You can buy me coffee next time." Next time. "Sure, if you're sticking around." He left cash on the table, including a generous tip because Deb had kids of her own to feed. "Come on, I'll walk you out." Outside, the night had turned properly cold, their breath fogging in the air. Claire wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. "Where are you staying?" Lucas asked. "I've got a place." The way she said it made him doubt it was true, but he didn't call her on it. "Listen," he said, digging in his pocket. "I've got a card somewhere." He found it, slightly bent, with the garage's name and number. He pulled out a pen and scrawled his cell number on the back. "If you need anything, a meal, a ride, whatever, I know what it's like to be new somewhere." Claire took the card, staring at it like it was written in a foreign language. "Why are you being nice to me?" "Why not?" "People don't just... You don't know me." "So?" "Mia doesn't know you either, but that didn't stop her from making sure you didn't poison the ducks." He smiled. "Sometimes people just help people. Doesn't have to be more complicated than that." She looked up at him, and in the parking lot lights he could see her eyes were damp. "Thank you, Lucas." "Welcome, Claire. Take care of yourself, okay?" He climbed into his truck and started the engine, giving her a wave as he pulled out. In the rearview mirror he could see her still standing there, holding his card, small and alone in the parking lot. The drive home was short. He found his mother on the couch, reading a magazine while a cooking show played on mute. "Took you long enough," she said, but there was no heat in it. "Got held up. Sorry." He set the milk in the fridge, noting the plate of cookies on the counter. "She go down okay?" "Like a light. We made chocolate chip. Her idea of portion control is interesting. I'm pretty sure some of those cookies are 90% chocolate." Lucas smiled. "Sounds about right." His mother stood, gathering her purse and jacket. "You okay, honey? You look tired." "Always tired, Ma." "I worry about you." "I know. I'm fine. Really." She kissed his cheek, squeezed his shoulder, and headed out. Lucas locked the door behind her and moved through the apartment, turning off lights, checking on Mia, who was sprawled across her bed like a starfish, breathing deep and even. In his own room, Lucas stripped down to his boxers and climbed into bed, his mind still turning over the encounter at the diner. Something about Claire nagged at him, not in a bad way, just in a way that felt unfinished. She'd been so guarded, so careful with her words, running from something, maybe, or toward something. Lost in the way people got when the life they'd been living stopped making sense. He knew that feeling too. Sleep pulled him under eventually, and Thursday arrived right on schedule. Back to work, back to the routine. He didn't think about Claire much during the day, too busy with a brake job that turned complicated and a customer who wanted to argue about every line item on the estimate. But that evening, after he'd picked up Mia and made dinner and supervised homework, after she was in bed and the apartment was quiet, he found himself thinking about it again. About the way she'd closed her eyes when she bit into that burger, like it was the best thing she'd tasted in weeks. About her question, you could ask for more, couldn't you? About the fact that he'd given her his number and didn't really expect her to call, but somewhere in the back of his mind, he kind of hoped she would. She didn't call. 3 days passed, then 4, then a week, and Lucas found himself occasionally glancing at his phone like an idiot, wondering if maybe he'd missed a call or a text. He hadn't. Claire was just another stranger who drifted through town, probably long gone by now, and that was fine. That was normal. He'd done a decent thing, bought someone a meal, and that was the end of it. except on Saturday morning when he and Mia were at the park again, because Mia had declared it their new tradition, and who was he to argue with a 7-year-old's logic? There she was. Claire sat on the same bench where they'd first seen her, watching the ducks with that same defeated posture. She wasn't feeding them this time, just sitting there like she had nowhere else to be.
Daddy, look, it's the bread lady.
Mia was already running before Lucas could stop her, her shoes kicking up wood chips from the playground. Claire looked up, startled, as Mia skidded to a halt in front of her.
Hi, remember me? I'm Mia. I told you about the ducks. Are you feeding them the right food this time?
Mia, Jesus! Lucas jogged over, slightly out of breath.
Sorry, she has no concept of personal boundaries. But Claire was smiling, a real smile that reached her eyes. It's okay. Hi, Mia. No, I'm not feeding them today, just watching. Watching is good too. Daddy says sometimes it's nice to just sit and think. Mia climbed onto the bench next to Claire without invitation, swinging her legs. What are you thinking about? Mia, Lucas said, a warning in his voice. What? You said it's polite to make conversation. Claire laughed, and the sound was lighter than Lucas expected. I was thinking about how the ducks seem to know exactly what they're doing, like they have a plan. Ducks are very smart, Mia agreed seriously. Smarter than chickens. We learned about birds in science. Lucas sat down on Claire's other side, keeping a respectful distance. You're still in town? Yeah. She glanced at him, something uncertain in her expression. Found a room at the Weekly Inn. It's not terrible. The Weekly Inn was absolutely terrible, a collection of efficiency units on the edge of town that rented by the week to people who'd run out of better options. But Lucas didn't say that. How's the job search going? Slow, applied at a few places, waiting to hear back. What kind of work you looking for? She hesitated. Anything, really. I'm not picky. Mia had lost interest in the adult conversation and was now feeding imaginary food to the ducks, making elaborate narratives about which duck was hungry and which one was being greedy. Lucas watched his daughter for a moment, then looked back at Claire. You eat breakfast yet? I'm okay. That's not what I asked. She met his eyes, and he saw the pride there, the reluctance to accept help again. But he also saw the hunger, the exhaustion. There's a diner 2 blocks from here, he said. Good pancakes. Terrible coffee, but the pancakes make up for it. We were heading there anyway. You should come. Lucas, you don't have to. I know I don't have to, but Mia's going to eat her weight in chocolate chip pancakes, and I hate eating alone. So you'd actually be doing me a favor. It was a lie, transparent as glass, but Claire seemed to appreciate the attempt. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you. Mia was thrilled to have company, chattering the entire 2-block walk about ducks and school, and her friend Sophie's hamster who had apparently succeeded in escaping and was now, according to Sophie's mom, living somewhere in the walls. Claire listened with what seemed like genuine interest, asking questions that made Mia light up even more. The diner, Martha's Kitchen, not to be confused with Sal's place, was busy with the Saturday breakfast crowd, but they snagged a booth near the window. Mia immediately grabbed the syrup dispenser and started making patterns on the table with the condensation. Napkin, Lucas said, handing her one. Use that for your art. The waitress, a woman named Peggy, who'd gone to high school with Lucas, appeared with menus and coffee. Lucas Reed, as I live and breathe. And this must be Mia. You've grown a foot since I saw you last, sweetie. I'm 7 now, Mia announced. I wasn't 7 last time. Well, that explains it. Peggy winked at Claire. What can I get you folks? They ordered chocolate chip pancakes for Mia, regular pancakes and eggs for Lucas, and after some gentle prodding, an omelet for Claire. When Peggy left, Claire looked at Lucas across the table. Do you know everyone in this town? Most people, yeah. Peggy's kid brother was in my grade. Her oldest just started at state. Must be nice having roots like that. Sometimes. Other times it feels like you can't breathe without someone knowing about it. He poured cream into his coffee, watching it swirl. You grew up in a big city? Claire's expression shuddered slightly. Something like that. Don't like talking about it? Not much to tell. That was a lie. He could see it in the way her shoulders tensed, but he let it go. Everyone had things they didn't want to talk about. He had a whole filing cabinet of subjects he avoided.
Mia filled the silence by recounting the entire plot of the movie they'd watched last night, complete with dramatic reenactments using the salt and pepper shakers as characters. Claire watched her with something that looked almost like longing. "She's really special," Claire said softly when Mia paused to take a breath. "She's something, all right." Lucas smiled. "Handful and a half, but yeah, she's pretty great." "Is it hard? Doing it alone?" The question caught him off guard. Most people danced around the subject of his single parenthood, making polite small talk without acknowledging the elephant in the room. "Sometimes," he said honestly, "harder than I thought it would be. Easier than I feared, though. She makes it worth it." "Her mom," Claire started, then stopped. "Sorry, that's too personal." "It's okay. She died when Mia was a baby. Overdose." He said it matter-of-factly, the way he'd learned to say it over the years, stripping the emotion out so it wouldn't hurt as much. "We were already split up by then. Mia doesn't remember her." "I'm sorry." "Yeah, me too." Their food arrived and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Mia demonstrated her sophisticated pancake eating technique, which involved cutting them into progressively smaller pieces until Lucas told her to just eat the damn things before they got cold. Claire picked at her omelet at first, then seemed to realize she was starving and ate with quiet intensity. Lucas watched her when she wasn't looking. There was something about her that didn't quite add up, the way she held herself, the careful way she spoke, like she was constantly translating from a different language. She had the mannerisms of someone educated, someone used to a different kind of life, but the circumstances of someone who'd lost everything. After breakfast, Mia begged to go back to the park. Lucas checked his watch. He had nowhere to be until his mother's for dinner at 5, and agreed. Claire came with them without being asked, falling into step beside him while Mia ran ahead. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said. "Sure." "Why do you keep helping me? You don't know me. I could be anyone." Lucas thought about that. "Could ask you the same thing. Why do you keep accepting?" "Because I need help," she said simply. "But that doesn't answer my question." "I don't know. You seemed like you needed a friend, and I know what that feels like. Figured it couldn't hurt to be decent." "Most people wouldn't." "Then most people are assholes." She laughed at that, surprised. "Fair point." At the park, Mia recruited Claire to play some elaborate game that involved the swings, the slide, and a complex set of rules that changed every 30 seconds. Lucas sat on a bench and watched them, his chest doing something complicated at the sight of his daughter's joy. Claire was good with her, he noticed, patient in a way that felt genuine, not forced. She listened when Mia talked, asked questions, played along with the nonsensical games. When Mia insisted on braiding Claire's hair, a skill she'd recently learned and felt compelled to practice on every available victim, Claire sat still and let her, even though the result looked like something a bird might nest in. "How's it look?" Mia asked, standing back to admire her work. "Beautiful," Claire said seriously. "Very avant-garde." "I don't know what that means, but I'm going to say thank you." "It means creative and unique." "Oh, then yes, it's very avant-garde." Lucas tried not to laugh. "Close enough, bug." They stayed at the park until almost noon, when Mia announced she was hungry again despite having eaten her weight in pancakes 2 hours earlier. Lucas suggested grilled cheese at home, and Mia countered with macaroni and cheese, and they compromised on grilled cheese with tomato soup. "You want to come?" The invitation was out of Lucas's mouth before he'd really thought it through. "It's not fancy, but there's enough for 3. Claire hesitated, and he could see the war in her expression, pride versus hunger, independence versus loneliness. "I don't want to impose." "You're not. Besides, Mia will be devastated if you say no, and I really don't want to deal with that level of drama today." "Hey," Mia protested, "I don't have drama." "Bug, you have more drama than a soap opera." "What's a soap opera?" "Never mind. So what do you say, Claire?" She looked at Mia, then at Lucas, then back at Mia. "Okay, thank you." The walk to their apartment was short, Mia holding Claire's hand and chattering about her stuffed animal collection and which ones had the best personalities. Lucas unlocked the door and ushered them inside, suddenly aware of how small and shabby the place looked. But Claire didn't seem to notice or care. She looked around with something like interest, taking in Mia's artwork on the walls, the well-worn furniture, the stacks of library books on the coffee table. This is nice, she said. It feels like a home. It's a mess, Lucas said, grabbing a pile of clean laundry from the couch and dumping it in his bedroom. But it's ours. Mia gave Claire the grand tour, which took approximately 90 seconds since there wasn't much to tour. Lucas started on lunch, pulling out bread and cheese and butter, setting a pot of soup to heat on the stove. Claire appeared in the kitchen doorway. Can I help? You can keep me company. That's about the extent of cooking complexity here. She leaned against the counter, watching him work. You do this every day? Cook for her? Someone's got to feed the kid. A lot of single parents don't. They do fast food, frozen dinners. Yeah, well, can't afford fast food every night, and I learned a while back that Mia will actually eat vegetables if I hide them in things. He flipped a sandwich in the pan, the butter sizzling. Nothing fancy, but it's food. It's more than food, Claire said quietly. It's care. Something in her voice made him look up. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read, something sad and wistful and complicated. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just thinking. About? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. About how some people make it look easy, being good. Trust me, it's not easy. I'm winging it 90% of the time. Could have fooled me. They ate lunch at the small kitchen table, Mia managing to get soup on her shirt despite Lucas's explicit instructions about careful eating. Claire helped clean up without being asked, washing dishes while Lucas dried, falling into an easy rhythm that felt oddly natural. Afterward, Mia wanted to play a board game she'd gotten for her birthday. Some complicated thing involving collecting cards and moving pieces around a board, according to rules that Lucas was pretty sure she was making up as they went. Claire played with good-natured patience, even when Mia changed the rules mid-game to ensure her own victory. I win, Mia announced, spreading her cards triumphantly. By cheating, Lucas pointed out. It's not cheating, it's creative rule interpretation. Where did you even learn that phrase? Grandma. Of course she did. Claire laughed, gathering up the cards. Your grandma sounds fun, Mia. She's the best. She lets me help cook, and she tells me stories about when Daddy was little and did stupid things. I never did stupid things, Lucas protested. Grandma says you tried to jump off the garage roof with a garbage bag parachute. I was 9, and it seemed like solid physics at the time. Claire's eyes danced. Did it work? No comment. He broke his arm, Mia said helpfully. Grandma has the pictures. The afternoon disappeared into games and conversation. The three of them sprawled in the living room while gray clouds gathered outside. Around 4, Lucas's phone buzzed with a text from his mother reminding him about dinner. Crap, we're supposed to be at my mom's in an hour. He looked at Claire. You want to ride back to the inn? I can walk. It's not far. It's about to pour. As if on cue, thunder rumbled in the distance. Claire glanced toward the window, then back at Lucas. Come with us, Mia said suddenly. To Grandma's. She always makes too much food anyway, and she loves meeting new people. Mia, I don't think... Please, Daddy? Claire shouldn't have to walk in the rain, and Grandma's pot roast is really good. And it would be fun. Lucas looked at Claire, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the couch cushions. You don't have to. Mia gets excited and forgets that not everyone wants to have dinner with strangers. Your mom wouldn't mind? My mom would probably adopt you on the spot. She's always saying I need to meet more people. He paused. But seriously, no pressure. I can drop you at the inn if you want. Claire seemed to be having some kind of internal debate, her hands twisting together in her lap. Finally, she said, If you're sure it's okay, I'd like that. The dinner part, I mean. Yes. Mia pumped her fist. Grandma's gonna love you. Linda Reed did, in fact, love Claire on sight. She answered the door, took one look at the quiet young woman standing slightly behind Lucas, and immediately pulled her into a hug that made Claire's eyes go wide with surprise. Any friend of Lucas's is family here. Come in, come in. You look half frozen, honey. Let me get you some tea. Lucas's childhood home was exactly what Claire would have expected. Worn but comfortable, filled with photographs and plants and the smell of something delicious cooking. Linda ushered them all inside, already chattering about the roast and asking Claire questions that managed to be warm without being intrusive. I hope you're hungry. I always make too much because this one, She pointed at Lucas. Never eats enough, and Mia's going through a growth spurt.
I'm always growing, Mia announced. Soon I'll be taller than Daddy. Keep dreaming, Bug. Dinner was chaos in the best way. Linda had set the table for 3, but quickly added a 4th place, insisting Claire sit between her and Mia. The pot roast was indeed excellent, served with roasted vegetables and homemade rolls that were still warm from the oven. So Claire, where are you from? Linda asked, passing the potatoes. East Coast originally. Claire's answer was vague, but not evasive. I've been traveling lately, seeing different places. And you ended up in Millbrook. We must be doing something right. Linda smiled. Are you working here or just passing through? Looking for work, actually. Something temporary while I figure out my next move. What kind of work do you do? Claire hesitated, just for a second. Office work, mostly. Administrative stuff. I'm pretty flexible. Linda's eyes lit up. Office work? Oh, you should talk to Barbara Chen. She runs the real estate office downtown, and I know she's been looking for help. Her assistant just left for college. I don't want to cut. Nonsense. I'll give her a call tomorrow. Barbara owes me a favor anyway. I helped her daughter with her college applications last year. Lucas watched the exchange, watched Claire's carefully neutral expression, the way she was trying not to look too hopeful. His mother had a way of steamrolling people with kindness, and Claire seemed both overwhelmed and grateful. The conversation flowed around the table, Mia talking about school, Linda sharing town gossip, Lucas contributing the occasional comment. Claire mostly listened, but she was smiling, genuine and unguarded in a way Lucas hadn't seen before. After dinner, Mia dragged Claire to the living room to show her Linda's photo albums, which meant showing her every embarrassing picture of Lucas from birth through high school. Lucas helped his mother clean up, loading the dishwasher while she wrapped leftovers. She's lovely, Linda said quietly, glancing toward the living room where Mia's laughter rang out. She's a friend, Ma. I didn't say otherwise. I'm just saying she's lovely, and she looks at you like you hung the moon. She does not. Lucas Reed, I'm your mother. I notice these things. She handed him a dish to rinse. When's the last time you went on a date? Ma, I'm just asking. You're 32 years old. You're allowed to have a life outside of work and Mia. My life is fine. Your life is small, and I say that with love. She touched his arm. You're a good father, the best, but you're also a person, and people need connection. I have connection. I have you and Mia, and that's not what I mean, and you know it. He did know it. He just didn't want to think about it. Dating meant complications, meant bringing someone into Mia's life who might leave, meant risking the stability they'd built. I'm not ready, he said finally. Okay, Linda squeezed his arm. But when you are, you could do a lot worse than a nice girl who looks at you like that. In the living room, Claire was being subjected to Lucas's 7th grade yearbook photo, which featured braces and a regrettable attempt at growing his hair long. You look like you're in a rock band, Claire said, trying not to laugh. I was very cool, Lucas said dryly, walking in. All the kids wanted to be me. That is absolutely not true, Linda called from the kitchen. He had exactly 2 friends, and they were both nerds. Thanks, Ma. Really selling me here. Claire was laughing now, really laughing, and the sound did something to Lucas's chest that he wasn't quite ready to examine. The rain had started in earnest by the time they left, fat drops pounding against the windshield as Lucas drove Claire back to the weekly inn. Mia had fallen asleep in the back seat, worn out from playing and eating. Thank you, Claire said as they pulled into the parking lot. For today, all of it. Your mom is wonderful. She's a menace who thinks everyone needs feeding and fixing. Still wonderful. Claire unbuckled her seatbelt but didn't immediately get out. Lucas, why are you doing this? Really? Doing what? Being kind to me, letting me into your life. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. You don't, though. What if I'm not who you think I am? There was something in her voice, something almost desperate. Lucas turned to look at her properly. Claire, I don't think you're anything except someone who needed a friend. If that's wrong, you can tell me now. She looked like she wanted to say something, her mouth opening and closing. Finally, she just shook her head. I should go. Thank you for the ride. She was out of the truck before he could respond, running through the rain toward the dingy building.
Lucas watched her disappear inside, a strange feeling settling in his gut. Mia stirred in the back seat. Is Claire okay? I think so, Bug. Go back to sleep. But as he drove home through the rain, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Claire wasn't telling him. Something big. The next week fell into an unexpected pattern. Claire got the job at the real estate office. Barbara Chen called Lucas to thank him for the referral, even though he'd had nothing to do with it. And suddenly, Claire was a fixture in Millbrook. She'd stop by the garage sometimes on her lunch break, bringing coffee and staying to chat while Lucas worked. She joined them at the park on Saturday. She came to dinner at the apartment on Wednesday when Mia insisted, and Lucas didn't have it in him to say no. It was easy having her around. Too easy. She fit into their routine like she'd always been there, helping Mia with homework, laughing at Lucas's terrible jokes, existing in their space without making it feel crowded. You seen that girl from the real estate office? Jimmy asked one afternoon, his voice carefully casual. Claire? No. We're just friends, Uh-huh. Friends who have dinner together 3 times a week. She's new in town, doesn't know anyone. It's not like that. If you say so, man. But Jimmy was grinning like he knew something Lucas didn't. The thing was, Lucas wasn't sure what it was. Claire was beautiful and kind and easy to be around, but there was always something held back, some part of herself she kept locked away. She never talked about her past, deflected questions about her family, changed the subject whenever the conversation got too personal. It should have been a red flag. Would have been, if Lucas were smart. But then she'd smile at something Mia said, or her hand would brush his while they were cooking dinner, or she'd look at him like he was something special, and all his logical concerns would evaporate like smoke. 3 weeks after that first dinner at Sal's, Lucas was working late when Claire showed up at the garage. It was past 8, the other mechanics long gone, just him and a stubborn carburetor that refused to cooperate. Hey, she said from the doorway, making him jump. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. You're good. What's up? He wiped his hands on a rag, noting that she looked nervous. Everything okay? Yeah, She stepped further into the garage, hands shoved in her jacket pockets. I wanted to talk to you about something. Lucas's stomach dropped. This was it. The conversation where she told him she was leaving, that Millbrook wasn't for her, that whatever this was between them needed to stop. Okay, he said carefully. I've been thinking about what you said, about asking for more, about not settling for just enough. She wasn't quite meeting his eyes. And I realized I've been doing that my whole life, settling, accepting things as they are instead of trying to change them. Claire, let me finish, please. She took a breath. Being here, spending time with you and Mia, it's made me realize what I've been missing, what life could be like if I just let myself have it. What are you saying? She finally looked at him, and there was something raw in her expression. I'm saying I like it here. I like this town. I like my job. She stopped, swallowed. I like you, Lucas. A lot. And I know that's probably too much to say, and I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but I needed you to know. Lucas stood there, greasy rag in hand, completely frozen. Part of him had known this was coming, had felt it building in the spaces between them. But hearing it out loud was different. I like you too, he said finally, the words feeling inadequate. But I have a kid, and she's my priority, always. I can't do casual, and I can't bring someone into her life who's just going to leave. I'm not going to leave. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. Claire stepped closer, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her eyes. You're right. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want to find out. With you. Every rational part of Lucas's brain was screaming at him to slow down, to think this through, to protect himself and Mia. But the rest of him, the part that had been lonely for so damn long, wanted to say yes. This scares the hell out of me, he admitted. Me too. If we do this and it goes wrong, it doesn't just hurt me, it hurts Mia too, and I can't. I know. She reached out, her hand finding his. I wouldn't hurt her, or you. Not on purpose. Nobody does it on purpose. They stood there in the fluorescent lights of the garage, Lucas's hand grease-stained and Claire's soft, connected by touch, impossibility, and fear. One step at a time, Claire offered. We don't have to figure everything out tonight. Lucas thought about saying no, thought about all the ways this could go wrong, all the reasons it was a bad idea. Then he thought about the way Mia's face lit up when Claire walked into a room, about the way he felt when she was near, about the fact that maybe, just maybe, asking for more wasn't such a stupid thing after all. Okay, he said. One step at a time. She smiled, brilliant and genuine, and kissed him. It was soft and brief and tasted like hope, and when she pulled back, Lucas felt like something fundamental had shifted in his world. I should let you finish work, Claire said, but she didn't move away. It can wait. He laced his fingers through hers. Want to get terrible diner coffee and talk about what one step at a time actually means? Yeah, I really do. They left the garage together, Lucas turning off lights and locking up, Claire's hand warm in his. The November air was cold and sharp, promising winter, but Lucas barely felt it. For the first time in years, the future felt like something to look forward to instead of just survive. They ended up at Sal's again, sliding into the same booth where this had all started, and Lucas wondered if that meant something or if he was just reading patterns into chaos. The late shift waitress brought coffee without being asked, recognizing Lucas and giving Claire a knowing look that made her blush. So, Claire said, wrapping her hands around the mug, one step at a time. What does that look like to you? Lucas added cream to his coffee, buying himself time to think. Honestly, I have no idea. I haven't done this since Sarah, and that was a decade ago, and a complete disaster. Comforting. I'm just saying I'm rusty, and scared, and probably going to screw this up somehow. He looked at her across the table. But I want to try. That's the part that scares me most, how much I want to try. Claire's expression softened. I'm scared too. For different reasons, maybe, but still scared. What are you scared of? She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee like it held answers. Of not being enough. Of disappointing you. Of this being too good to last. Claire, you've been helping Mia with her homework for 2 weeks, and she actually likes math now. You're already more than enough. That's different. That's just being nice. No, it's not. It's caring. There's a difference. He reached across the table, his hand palm up, and after a pause, she took it. Look, I don't know what we're doing here, but I know I haven't felt this way in a long time, and I know Mia adores you, and I know that when you're around, things feel lighter somehow. So maybe we just keep doing what we're doing, dinners and park visits and homework, just with the understanding that we're figuring out if this could be something more. What about Mia? When do we tell her? Not yet. Not until we're sure. The protectiveness in his voice was instinctive. She's already attached to you. If this doesn't work out, it'll hurt her. So we need to be certain before we make it official. Claire nodded, understanding in her eyes. That's fair. So we're dating, but quietly. Is that okay? Yeah, it's actually kind of perfect. She smiled. Takes the pressure off. They talked until the waitress started giving them pointed looks and wiping down nearby tables with aggressive efficiency. Outside, the temperature had dropped further, their breath fogging in the air as they walked to Lucas's truck. Can I ask you something? Lucas said as he unlocked the doors. Sure. Where's your car? I've never seen you drive anywhere. Claire tensed, just slightly. I don't have one right now. Sold it before I came here. Needed the money. It was a reasonable explanation, but something about the way she said it felt rehearsed. Lucas filed that away with all the other small inconsistencies he'd noticed. The way she never mentioned specific places from her past, how she always paid in cash, the fact that her clothes were nice quality despite her claiming to be broke. But everyone had secrets, and he'd only known her a month. He let it go. The next few weeks unfolded like a dream Lucas was afraid to wake from. He and Claire fell into a rhythm that felt both new and familiar. Stolen moments at the garage during her lunch breaks, late-night phone calls after Mia went to bed, weekend mornings at the park where they'd watch Mia play while sitting close enough that their shoulders touched. They were careful around Mia, not hiding exactly, but not advertising either. As far as his daughter knew, Claire was just a good friend who came around a lot, which was technically true, just incomplete. You're smiling a lot lately, his mother observed one Sunday after church, watching him help Mia with her jacket. Am I? Don't play dumb. It's that girl, isn't it? Claire. Ma. I'm not prying. I'm observing and approving.
for the record. She handed him a container of leftovers. She's good for you, both of you. Lucas wanted to argue, but his mother wasn't wrong. Claire was good for them.
She brought something into their lives that had been missing. Not just romance, though there was that, but lightness. A sense that life could be more than just surviving until the next paycheck. But there were moments that gave him pause, like the time he'd mentioned wanting to take Mia to the Science Museum in the city for her birthday, and Claire had immediately offered to cover the tickets, pulling out more cash than someone working part-time at a real estate office should have lying around. Or the way she sometimes slipped up and mentioned restaurants and places that didn't match her story about being broke and transient. "You've been to Paris?" he'd asked once, when she'd casually referenced the Louvre. She'd frozen, just for a second. "A long time ago. High school trip. Must have been some high school. Scholarship program. I was lucky." The explanation was smooth, but her eyes had been evasive, and Lucas had felt that familiar tug of unease. Still, he didn't push. Everyone had things they didn't want to share, and he trusted that she'd tell him when she was ready. December arrived with the first real snow, and Mia's excitement reached levels that probably violated noise ordinances. Claire came over the night it started falling, ostensibly to help with dinner, but really just to watch Mia's face pressed against the window, cataloging every flake. "Can we build a snowman tomorrow?" Mia asked for the 15th time. "If there's enough snow," Lucas said, stirring pasta sauce. "There will be. The weather lady said so, and she's very smart about clouds." Claire laughed, and Lucas caught himself watching her instead of cooking, the way the kitchen light caught in her hair, the easy way she'd curled up in his chair like she belonged there. "You're burning the sauce," she said without looking at him. "Am not." "You are. I can smell it." She was right. He turned down the heat, earning a knowing smile from her that made his chest tight. After dinner, after Mia had been wrestled into pajamas and read 3 chapters instead of the agreed-upon one, Lucas found Claire on the couch, looking at her phone with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Everything okay?" She locked the screen quickly. "Yeah, just work stuff." "On a Tuesday night?" Barbara likes to send emails at weird hours. She set the phone aside. "Come here." He sat beside her, and she immediately curled into his side, her head on his shoulder. They'd been physical like this more and more lately, small touches, casual affection, the kind of comfortable intimacy that came from spending time together. "Can I stay a while?" she asked quietly. "I know Mia's asleep, but I'm not ready to go back to that depressing motel room yet." "You can stay as long as you want." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "You could get a better place, you know. Barbara's paying you decent, and I know the Maple Street apartments have openings." "Maybe. I'm thinking about it." But she didn't sound convincing, and Lucas wondered why someone would choose to stay in a weekly motel when they could afford better. Another piece that didn't quite fit. They watched some mindless TV show, Claire's breathing evening out until Lucas thought she'd fallen asleep. Then she spoke, her voice small. "Lucas? Yeah? If you found out something about me, something that changed how you saw me, would you give me a chance to explain?" He went still. "What kind of something?" Hypothetically. "Claire, you're kind of freaking me out here." She sat up, turning to face him. "I just need to know. If there was something in my past, something I hadn't told you about, would you at least listen? Is there something you need to tell me?" "No, I mean, not right now, I'm just—" She shook her head. "Never mind. Forget I said anything. Claire, I'm tired. I should go." She was up and gathering her things before he could stop her, moving with the kind of jerky efficiency that spoke of running from something. Lucas followed her to the door. "Hey, talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about. I'm just being weird. Ignore me." But her smile was forced, and she wouldn't quite meet his eyes. He caught her hand before she could leave. "Whatever it is, you can tell me. You know that, right?" "I know." She squeezed his fingers. "I'll see you tomorrow?" "Tomorrow." He watched her leave, that uneasy feeling back in full force. Something was going on with her, something bigger than she was letting on, and he couldn't shake the sense that it was going to blow up eventually. But the next day she showed up at the garage with coffee and that smile that made him forget his concerns, and he let himself believe that maybe he was just paranoid, maybe there was nothing to worry about after all. Mia's birthday fell on a Saturday in mid-December, and Lucas had been planning for weeks. Nothing big, Just family, Claire, and a cake from the grocery store bakery. They'd do the science museum trip the following weekend when it wouldn't be crowded with holiday visitors. His mother arrived early with presents wrapped in paper covered in purple unicorns, because apparently Mia had declared purple her signature color. Jimmy and his wife stopped by with a gift card to the bookstore. Claire showed up with a box that Mia immediately tried to shake to determine contents. "Can I open it now?" "After cake," Lucas said. "That's the rule." "But Daddy, rules are more like suggestions." "Not in this house, Bug." They sang happy birthday while Mia vibrated with barely contained excitement, blew out candles, ate cake that was far too sweet and exactly perfect. Then came presents. Books from Jimmy, art supplies from Linda, a science kit from Lucas that came with a warning label about adult supervision that he planned to completely ignore. And from Claire, a necklace with a small silver duck pendant. "Because you love ducks," Claire explained as Mia's eyes went wide. "And because you taught me about taking care of them." "It's perfect," Mia breathed, immediately putting it on. "I'm never taking it off, ever." "You have to take it off to shower," Lucas pointed out. "Except for showers, obviously." Later, after everyone had left and Mia was in bed exhausted from excitement and sugar, Claire helped Lucas clean up the kitchen. "You didn't have to get her something that nice," he said, rinsing plates. "I wanted to. She's special." The necklace looked expensive." Claire's hand stilled in the dishwater. "It wasn't that much." "Claire, that was sterling silver. I know what that costs." "So what if it was? I wanted to give her something nice. Is that a crime?" Her defensiveness surprised him. "No, of course not. You're working part-time at a real estate office and living in a weekly motel. Where's the money for sterling silver coming from?" "I have savings." "From what? You said you sold your car for money. You said you were broke when you got here." "I was. I am. I just budget carefully." She pulled her hands from the water, grabbing a towel. "Why are you interrogating me?" "I'm not interrogating you, I'm asking a question." "It feels like an interrogation." Lucas took a breath, trying to calm the rising frustration. "Look, I'm not trying to fight. I'm just trying to understand. There are things about you that don't add up, and every time I ask, you deflect or change the subject. Maybe because my past is my business." "It is, until you're part of my daughter's life, and then it becomes my business too." He set down the dish he was holding. "I need to know who you are, Claire. Really are. Because if there's something, but there's nothing. I'm just a person who had a life before Millbrook, okay? I don't talk about it because it's painful and complicated and none of it matters anymore. It matters if it affects you. It matters if you're hiding something." She stared at him, something crumbling in her expression. "I'm not hiding anything that would hurt you or Mia. I swear." "Then why won't you just tell me?" "Because I'm afraid." The words burst out of her, raw and desperate. "I'm afraid that if you knew everything, you'd look at me differently. That this," she gestured between them, "would end before it even really started." Lucas softened despite himself. "Claire, whatever it is, can we please just drop it, please? For tonight?" Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "It's Mia's birthday, and it was a good day, and I don't want to ruin it." He wanted to push, wanted answers, but the look on her face stopped him. "Okay, for tonight." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Thank you. I should go." "You don't have to." "I want to. I need to think." She grabbed her coat, moved toward the door. "Tell Mia I said happy birthday again." "Claire, wait." But she was already gone, the door clicking shut behind her, leaving Lucas standing in his kitchen wondering what the hell had just happened. He didn't hear from her the next day, or the day after that. Her phone went straight to voicemail, and when he drove by the weekly inn, her car, except she didn't have a car, did she, wasn't there. The front desk clerk said she'd paid through the week but hadn't been seen since Saturday. "Maybe she went out of town," the clerk offered with a shrug. "People come and go." Lucas tried not to panic. She was an adult, she could do what she wanted, and maybe she really did just need space. But the silence gnawed at him, especially when Mia asked where Claire was, and he didn't have a good answer. "Is she mad at us?" Mia asked on Tuesday, her small face worried. "No, baby. She's just busy with work stuff. But she always texts me good night. She hasn't in 3 days." Lucas hadn't known that, and the fact that Claire had been texting his daughter made something in his chest both warm and ache. I'm sure she'll text soon. But she didn't. On Wednesday, Lucas was under a Honda trying to locate an oil leak when his phone rang. Unknown number, but he answered anyway, hoping. Mr. Reed, this is Jennifer Martinez from the Millbrook Observer. I'm working on a story and was hoping you could comment. I don't know anything newsworthy, he said, wiping oil from his hands. It's about Claire Hastings. I understand you two have been seen together quite a bit lately. Every nerve in Lucas's body went on alert. Who? Claire Hastings. She's been in town for about 2 months now. Works at the real estate office? I know someone named Claire. I don't know her last name. Which was true and suddenly felt significant. Mr. Reed, are you aware that Claire Hastings is the CEO of Hastings Global? She's worth an estimated $4.3 billion. The garage tilted. Lucas sat down hard on his rolling stool. That's not possible. I have confirmed reports that she's been living at the Weekly Inn under an assumed name, working a minimum wage job, and integrating herself into the community. Some people are calling it an experiment. Others are saying she was hiding from creditors or legal trouble. Do you have any comment on your relationship with her? I don't. Lucas's brain was trying to process and failing. This is a joke. I can send you links to articles, photos. Ms. Hastings is very well known in certain circles. There's quite a lot of press coverage about her disappearance 2 months ago from her company headquarters in New York. New York? She'd said East Coast. She'd said she was broke and passing through and looking for work. She'd lied. About everything. Mr. Reed? No comment. He hung up. His hands were shaking. He pulled out his phone and searched for Claire Hastings, and the internet exploded with results. Photos of a woman in designer clothes at charity galas and board meetings, looking polished and powerful and exactly like the woman he'd bought dinner for at a rundown diner. Articles about her family's company, about her taking over as CEO at 26, about her being one of the youngest billionaires in the country, about her disappearance in October that had sparked concerns about her safety and mental health. There were recent articles, too, from the last few days. Speculation about where she'd been. A statement from her company that she'd been located and was safe. And worst of all, an article from this morning with the headline, Billionaire CEO's Secret Small-Town Experiment. The article laid it all out. How Claire had apparently decided to test whether genuine connection was possible without the complication of wealth. How she'd chosen a random small town and created a false identity. How she'd embedded herself in the community to see if anyone would value her for herself. Lucas was mentioned by name, so was Mia. His daughter's name was in an article about a billionaire's social experiment. He was going to be sick. Lucas? Jimmy appeared in his peripheral vision. Man, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I need to go. Lucas stood, his legs unsteady. Can you cover for me? Yeah, sure, but Lucas was already out the door, climbing into his truck with oil still on his hands. He drove to the Weekly Inn on autopilot, his mind a chaos of betrayal and disbelief and rage. The clerk confirmed that Claire had checked out Monday morning. No forwarding address. Of course she hadn't, because she'd gotten what she wanted. Proof that someone could love her without knowing she was rich. Proof that she could collect like she was one of them, like her life was anything like theirs. And Lucas and Mia had been her test subjects. He drove home and did something he never did. Called his mother in the middle of the day and asked her to pick up Mia from school. Then he sat in his apartment, in the silence, and tried to understand how he'd been so stupid. All the signs had been there. The expensive necklace, the casual references to places and things that didn't match her story, the way she'd deflected every personal question, the fear in her voice when she'd asked if he'd listen if he found out something that changed how he saw her. She'd known. She'd known this was coming, known it would explode, and she'd done it anyway. His phone rang constantly. Reporters, numbers he didn't recognize, even Barbara from the real estate office asking if he'd known who Claire really was. He turned it off and sat in the dark, watching snow fall outside his window. When his mother brought Mia home, his daughter ran in with her backpack bouncing, already talking. Daddy, everyone at school was talking about Claire. They said she's rich and famous and that she was pretending to be poor. Sophie's mom said it was on the news. Is it true? Lucas looked at his mother, who gave him a helpless, sympathetic look. Yeah, Bug, it's true. Mia's face crumpled. Why would she pretend? Why would she lie to us? I don't know. Is she coming back? No. The word tasted like ash. She's not coming back. Mia burst into tears, and Lucas gathered her up, holding his sobbing daughter while his own heart broke into pieces he wasn't sure how to put back together. His mother stayed, made dinner that no one ate, tried to offer comfort that couldn't penetrate the numbness. When she finally left, promising to call tomorrow, Lucas put Mia to bed early. She cried herself to sleep clutching the duck necklace, and Lucas wanted to take it away, wanted to throw it in the trash where it belonged, but he couldn't do that to her. He retreated to the living room and finally let himself feel it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the grief. She'd made him believe. That's what hurt most. She'd made him believe that someone could see him, just him, regular Lucas with his grease-stained hands and his struggling bank account, and choose him anyway. She'd made him believe that life could be more, that asking for more wasn't stupid. But it had all been a lie, an experiment, a game. His phone, turned back on, showed 17 missed calls and twice as many texts. Most were from reporters. One was from a number he didn't recognize with a New York area code. He deleted it without reading. There was one from Claire, sent Monday morning before she'd checked out. I'm sorry, I wanted to tell you. I was going to tell you.
I just need you to know that everything I felt was real. Even if everything else was a lie, that part was real. Lucas stared at the message for a long time. Then he blocked the number and threw his phone across the room, hearing it hit the wall with a satisfying crack. Real. She thought it was real. Nothing about this had been real. How could it be, when it was built on lies from the very first moment? He thought about that night in the diner, buying her a burger because she looked hungry and alone. He thought about introducing her to his daughter, to his mother, letting her into every part of his life. He thought about falling for her, about thinking maybe, just maybe, he deserved something good. And all of it, every single moment, had been Claire Hastings playing pretend, slumming it with the poor people to see what it felt like, taking notes for whatever book or article or TED Talk she'd probably give about her experience roughing it in small-town America. Lucas put his head in his hands and tried not to think about the way she'd smiled when Mia had taught her about ducks, or the sound of her laugh, or the feeling of her hand in his. Tried not to think about how much he'd loved her, because that was the worst part, the part that made his chest feel like it was caving in, despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the casual cruelty of her experiment. He'd loved her, and she'd destroyed him anyway. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of routine and numbness. Lucas went to work because bills didn't care about heartbreak. He picked up Mia from school because she still needed him even when he felt hollowed out. He made dinner and checked homework and went through all the motions of being a functional parent while something inside him stayed frozen. Mia asked about Claire constantly for the first week. When was she coming back? Could they call her? Did she still like them? Each question was a knife, but Lucas answered with as much patience as he could scrape together. She's not coming back, Bug. She lives in New York. She has a whole different life there. But she said she liked it here. She said she liked us. Sometimes people say things they don't mean. That's lying. Lying is bad. Yeah. Lucas stared at the mac and cheese he was stirring, watching the pasta circle the pot. It is. By the second week, Mia had stopped asking. She still wore the duck necklace, still sometimes looked toward the door like maybe Claire would walk through it, but she'd learned what Lucas had known all along. Some people left, and they didn't come back, no matter how much you wanted them to. The media attention died down after a few days when some celebrity scandal provided fresher meat. Lucas's phone stopped ringing with reporter requests. The articles about Millbrook and Claire Hastings' experiment faded from the front page of search results. Life returned to something resembling normal, if normal meant going through the motions while feeling nothing. Jimmy tried to get him to talk about it. His mother tried to get him to talk about it. Lucas stonewalled them both with the practice deficiency of someone who'd had a lot of practice not dealing with his feelings. You can't just pretend it didn't happen, Linda said 2 weeks after the story broke, cornering him in her kitchen while Mia watched a movie in the living room. Watch me. Lucas Reed, you are feeling something about this, and bottling it up isn't healthy. I'm fine, Ma. You're not fine.
You're angry and hurt, and you have every right to be, but you can't just. What do you want me to say? The words came out sharper than he intended. That I'm pissed? That I feel like an idiot? That I can't stop wondering what was real and what was part of her little social experiment? Yes, that. Say that. Well, I just did. Happy? He grabbed his keys from the counter. Come on, Mia, time to go. He didn't give his mother a chance to respond, just collected his daughter and left, driving home in silence while Mia hummed along to the radio, oblivious to the tension coiled tight in his shoulders. Christmas was 2 weeks away, and Lucas couldn't bring himself to care. Normally, by now, he'd have dragged the decorations down from the storage closet, let Mia cover every surface with tinsel and plastic snowflakes. This year, he couldn't find the energy. Are we doing a tree? Mia asked on the first Saturday in December, her voice small and uncertain. Lucas looked up from the carburetor diagram he'd been staring at without seeing. You want a tree? It's Christmas. We always have a tree. Right. Yeah, we'll get one this weekend. Can Grandma come help decorate? Sure, Bug. Whatever you want. They got the tree, a scraggly thing from the lot behind the hardware store, marked down because it was missing branches on one side. Mia declared it perfect because it was unique and special and probably felt left out. Linda came over with hot chocolate and Christmas music, and they decorated while Lucas tried to feel something resembling festive. He was hanging lights when his phone rang. Unknown number. He'd stopped answering those, but something made him look, and the area code was local. Millbrook. Hello? Mr. Reed? The voice was young, female, nervous. This is Sophie, from Mia's class. I'm calling from my mom's phone. Lucas's parental alarm system activated immediately. Is everything okay? Is Mia all right? She's fine. She's here with us. It's just a pause, whispered conversation in the background. My mom wanted to know if you could come pick her up a little early from the play date. Except Mia was currently in his living room, arguing with his mother about ornament placement. Sophie, Mia's right here. Oh. Confusion in the kid's voice. But someone called and said they were picking her up early and they knew the password, so we thought. Every drop of blood in Lucas's body turned to ice. What password? Who called? I don't know. My mom talked to them. Hold on. More background noise, adult voices. Then a different woman came on the line. Mr. Reed, this is Jennifer, Sophie's mom. I'm so sorry. There seems to be some confusion. A woman called about an hour ago saying she was Mia's aunt and needed to pick her up early for a family emergency. She knew the safety password you have on file at school, so I assumed, I don't have a safety password, and Mia doesn't have an aunt. His voice came out deadly calm despite the panic clawing at his throat. Who was it? She didn't give a name. Oh, my stars, I'm so sorry. I should have verified. It's fine, Mia's here. But if anyone calls again about her, anyone at all, you call me directly. Understand? He hung up and immediately dialed the school, getting the after-hours voicemail. Then he tried the main office, the principal's cell that he had from the parent directory, finally getting through to someone who could check the records. There's no safety password on file for Mia Reed, the secretary confirmed. Are you wanting to set one up? Yeah. The password is... He looked at Mia, dancing to jingle bells with an ornament in each hand. The password is pancakes. After he hung up, Lucas stood in his kitchen, gripping the counter, trying to slow his racing heart. Someone had tried to get information about Mia. Someone who knew enough to fake being family, who was convincing enough that another parent had believed them. Daddy? Mia appeared in the doorway. You okay? You look weird. I'm fine, Bug. Just work stuff. But he wasn't fine, because there was only one person who would try something like that, only one person who'd been asking questions about Mia, who'd gotten close enough to learn details about their life. Claire. He waited until Mia was in bed and his mother had gone home before he unblocked Claire's number and scrolled through the messages she'd sent over the past 2 weeks. He'd deleted them all without reading, but they were still in his phone's memory, recoverable if he was willing to look. There were 11 messages. The first few were apologies, variations on the theme of I'm sorry, and I never meant to hurt you, and please let me explain. Then they shifted to concern about Mia, asking if she was okay, saying she understood if Lucas hated her, but she just wanted to know that Mia was all right. The most recent was from yesterday. I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but Mia called me tonight, and I need you to know that I didn't ask her to. She's confused and hurting, and she asked me why I left. I told her I had to go home, but that I cared about both of you very much. I hope that was okay. I hope you can forgive me for at least talking to her." Lucas stared at the message, fury rising like bile. Mia had called her. His 7-year-old daughter had somehow gotten Claire's number and called her, and Claire had answered, had talked to her, had said caring things while conveniently leaving out the part where their entire relationship had been built on lies. He checked Mia's tablet. She had a kid-safe messaging app that he monitored, and found the call log. One outgoing call to Claire's number, 47 minutes long, placed while Lucas had been in the shower yesterday. The next message he sent to Claire came from a place of pure, righteous anger. "Stay away from my daughter. She doesn't need your guilt or your explanations. She needs stability, which is what she had before you showed up and decided we'd make good subjects for your little experiment. Don't call her, don't text her. If you contact her again, I'll get a restraining order." He hit send and blocked the number again, but the damage was done. His hands were shaking with rage, with fear, with the terrible understanding that Claire still had access to Mia in ways he couldn't control. The next morning, he sat Mia down before school. "Bug, we need to talk about Claire." Mia's face lit up, then fell when she saw his expression. "Am I in trouble?" "No, but I need you to understand something. Claire isn't who we thought she was. She lied to us about a lot of things. But she said she cared about us." "I know she said that, but caring about someone means being honest with them, and she wasn't." He took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "I need you to not call her anymore, okay? If you want to talk about how you're feeling, you can talk to me or Grandma or even your school counselor, but not Claire." "Why not? She understands." "Because she's not safe, Mia." The words hurt to say, hurt to believe. "I thought she was, but she's not. And my job is to keep you safe, which means keeping you away from people who lie to us." Mia's eyes filled with tears. "But I miss her." "I know, baby. I miss her too." The admission escaped before he could stop it, and it was true, which made everything worse. "But sometimes we have to miss people from far away. Okay?" She nodded, miserable, and Lucas felt like the worst parent in the world for making her cry. But better she cry now than get hurt worse later, when Claire got bored of playing concerned adult and moved on to her next experiment. Work was his refuge. At the garage, he could lose himself in the concrete problems of broken transmissions and misfiring engines, things that had clear solutions and didn't require emotional processing. Jimmy had stopped trying to make him talk about it, which Lucas appreciated. They worked in companionable silence, the radio playing classic rock, the familiar rhythm of the garage helping Lucas feel almost human again. He was 3 weeks into this new normal when Barbara Chen showed up at the garage. "Lucas, do you have a minute?" He slid out from under the Accord he'd been working on, wiping his hands. "Sure. What's up?" Barbara looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for her. She was normally all business, direct and efficient. "I wanted to talk to you about Claire, the girl who worked for me." "I don't want to talk about her." "I understand, but I think you should hear this. She came to see me before she left town, paid back every cent I'd paid her in wages and then some. Said she felt guilty about taking money under false pretenses." Barbara pulled an envelope from her purse. "She also left this for you. Asked me to give it to you when I thought you were ready to hear her out." Lucas stared at the envelope like it might bite him. "I don't want it." "You should read it." "Barbara, look, I don't know the whole story, and it's none of my business, but that girl came into my office crying so hard she could barely speak. Whatever happened between you two, she's not some cold-hearted monster. She made mistakes, yeah, but she's suffering for them." Barbara set the envelope on the workbench. "Read it or don't, that's up to you. But she asked me to tell you that she never meant to hurt you or Mia, and for what it's worth, I believe her." She left before Lucas could argue, and he stood there staring at the envelope for a solid 5 minutes before shoving it in his pocket. He wouldn't read it. He didn't care what Claire had to say. She'd said enough already, but the envelope burned in his pocket all day. A constant reminder that he was curious despite himself, that some small, stupid part of him still wanted to understand why. He lasted until Mia was in bed that night before he pulled it out, staring at his name written in Claire's familiar handwriting on the front. The paper was good quality, the kind of thing a billionaire would have lying around. He almost threw it away unopened. Almost. Instead, he opened it. The letter was 3 pages, handwritten, and started with the words he'd been both dreading and needing to hear. Dear Lucas, I know you have every right to hate me. I know nothing I say can undo the damage I've caused, but I need you to understand what happened, even if it doesn't change anything. My name is Claire Hastings. I'm 27 years old, and I've been the CEO of my family's company since my father died 3 years ago. I inherited a fortune I didn't earn and a position I wasn't prepared for, and every day since has been about proving myself worthy of both. But somewhere along the way, I stopped knowing who I was outside of the company. Every relationship I had was transactional. Every person who smiled at me wanted something: access, money, connections. I couldn't trust anyone's motives because there was always an angle. So I decided to find out if genuine connection was even possible for me. If someone could care about me, just me, without the money and the name, then maybe I wasn't as broken as I felt. I know how that sounds. I know how selfish and privileged and stupid it was to play with people's lives like that. I know I had no right to lie to you, to Mia, to your mother. I know I caused real harm in pursuit of my own emotional validation. But Lucas, I need you to understand, what I felt for you was never part of the experiment. It was never fake. I fell for you despite my plan, not because of it. Every moment we spent together, every conversation, every smile. That was real. You saw me, the real me, and you still chose to care. That's more than I ever hoped for. I know that doesn't make the lying okay. I know that my intentions don't erase my actions. I know that you and Mia deserve better than someone who started your relationship with deception. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for another chance. I just need you to know that loving you and Mia was the most real thing I've ever experienced, and I'm sorry I destroyed it. Take care of yourself and that amazing daughter of yours. She deserves the world, and so do you. Claire Lucas read it twice, then a third time, looking for the manipulation, the excuses, the self-serving justification. But all he found was regret and grief and a raw honesty that felt too painful to be fake. She'd loved them. She'd said it plainly, without decoration or deflection. She'd loved them, and she'd ruined it anyway. He folded the letter and put it back in the envelope, then shoved it in a drawer where he wouldn't have to look at it. Knowing the why didn't change anything. She was still gone. They were still hurt, and love built on lies wasn't really love at all. But the letter haunted him anyway, whispering questions he didn't want to answer. What if she really hadn't meant to fall for him? What if the feelings had been genuine even if the circumstances weren't? What if he was throwing away something real because he was too proud or too hurt to see past the deception? Christmas came and went in a blur of forced cheer, and Mia's attempts to pretend everything was fine. She loved her presents, books and art supplies, and a telescope that Lucas had saved for 3 months to afford. But there was a dimness to her joy, a shadow that hadn't been there before Claire. New Year's arrived with equally little fanfare. Lucas worked on New Year's Eve because holiday pay was time and a half, came home to find his mother watching Mia, kissed his daughter's sleeping forehead at 12:01, and thought about how this time last year he'd been alone, and that had been enough. He'd been content with his small life, his simple routines, his manageable expectations. Claire had shown him what more could look like, then snatched it away. January was brutal, not just emotionally, but financially. The truck's transmission finally gave up, requiring a rebuild that ate up most of his savings. Mia got sick with a flu that turned into an ear infection requiring antibiotics they couldn't really afford. The electric bill came in higher than expected because of the cold snap. Lucas juggled payments like a circus act, robbing Peter to pay Paul and hoping neither of them noticed. He was exhausted and stressed and barely holding it together when his phone rang on a Tuesday evening in late January. Unknown number again, but this time he answered out of habit. "Is this Lucas Reed?" "Yeah, who's this?" "My name is Michael Torres. I'm an attorney representing Claire Hastings." Lucas's entire body went rigid. "I told her to stay away from us." "Mr. Reed, please hear me out. Ms. Hastings isn't contacting you directly out of respect for your wishes, but she wanted me to inform you that she's established a trust fund for Mia, college tuition, living expenses, anything she needs for her education. It's all covered. Absolutely not. Mr. Reed, we don't want her money. We don't want anything from her. I understand you're angry, but this isn't about you. It's about giving Mia opportunities. My daughter has opportunities. She doesn't need charity from someone who treated us like lab rats. Ms. Hastings doesn't see it as charity. She sees it as, I don't care what she sees it as. The answer is no. Lucas's voice was shaking. You tell Claire Hastings that my daughter is not a guilt transaction. She doesn't get to buy her way into our lives or soothe her conscience with a trust fund. Mr. Reed, I strongly advise you to reconsider. Lucas hung up. He stood in his kitchen, breathing hard, fighting the urge to throw something. How dare she? How dare she think that money could fix this? That she could just throw cash at the problem and make it go away? Mia wasn't a charity case. They weren't a charity case. They were fine. They were fine. Except they weren't fine. Not really. Lucas was drowning in bills, and Mia deserved better than barely getting by. And the rational part of his brain knew that accepting the money would be the smart thing to do. But his pride wouldn't let him. His anger wouldn't let him. The raw, wounded part of him that still hurt every time he thought about Claire wouldn't let him take anything else from her, not even help. He called his mother. Ma, did a lawyer contact you about Claire? Oh, honey, yes, this afternoon. He said something about a trust fund for Mia? Linda's voice was careful. I told him he'd need to talk to you. I said no. Silence on the other end of the line, then, Lucas, are you sure that's wise? I'm sure I don't want anything from her. This isn't about you, though. It's about Mia's future. Mia's future is fine. I'm handling it. Honey, I know you are, but college is expensive, and this could take that burden off your shoulders. I said no, Ma. Subject closed. He hung up before she could argue further, before the reasonable voice in his head could override the angry one. But that night, after Mia was asleep, Lucas sat at his kitchen table with his calculator and his stack of bills and did the math. Even if he saved every extra penny from now until Mia turned 18, even if he worked overtime every week and never had an unexpected expense, he'd have maybe $20,000 for her college fund. Maybe. A state school would run $40,000 a year, minimum. That was 4 years at $160,000, assuming tuition didn't keep rising the way it had been. Claire's trust fund would cover all of it, easily. Would give Mia opportunities Lucas could never provide on his own. Would mean she wouldn't have to choose her college based on what they could afford. Wouldn't have to work 3 jobs while studying. Wouldn't have to graduate with crushing debt. But accepting it would mean admitting that Claire had something to offer them, that her money could buy something Lucas's love couldn't provide. It would mean letting her back into their lives, even tangentially. It would mean forgiving her, or at least accepting her help, and Lucas wasn't ready for either. He put the calculator away and went to bed, but sleep was a long time coming. The next day, Mia's school called. She'd gotten in a fight at recess, not physical, but verbal, with another kid who'd apparently made a comment about Claire, and Mia had lost it. Lucas left work early to pick her up from the principal's office, his daughter sitting in a chair with her arms crossed and tear tracks on her face. She said you were dating Claire for her money, Mia burst out the moment she saw him. She said that's the only reason anyone would date you, and it wasn't true, so I told her she was stupid and mean, and I hated her. Lucas's heart cracked right down the middle. He knelt in front of Mia's chair, taking her small hands in his larger ones. Bug, you can't call people stupid and mean, even when they say hurtful things. But it wasn't true. You didn't know Claire was rich. You liked her because she was nice. I know that. You know that. That's what matters. He wiped her tears with his thumb. People are going to say things, Mia. About me, about Claire, about us. We can't control what they say. We can only control how we respond. I want to control what they say. I want to make them stop. Me too, baby. Me too. The principal, a kind woman named Mrs. Henderson, who'd been understanding about the whole situation, let them go with a warning and a gentle suggestion that maybe Mia could benefit from talking to the school counselor. Lucas agreed because clearly his daughter was processing the Claire situation in ways that were affecting her daily life. That night, after dinner and homework, and a bath that Mia took without her usual resistance, Lucas found her in her room, holding the duck necklace she'd finally stopped wearing every day. Can I ask you something, Daddy?
Always. Do you think Claire really cared about us, or was she just pretending the whole time? Lucas sat on the edge of her bed, the question hitting harder than any of the physical blows life had thrown at him. I think she cared, he said finally, the admission costing him. I think she made bad choices and she hurt us, but I don't think the caring was fake. Then why did she leave? Because sometimes caring isn't enough. Sometimes people hurt each other even when they don't mean to, and the hurt is too big to get past. Mia was quiet for a long moment, turning the necklace over in her hands. I miss her, Daddy. Is that okay? Yeah, Bug. It's okay to miss her. His voice cracked slightly. I miss her too. It was the first time he'd admitted it out loud, and saying it felt like opening a wound that hadn't quite healed. Mia looked up at him with those wise, beyond her years eyes. If she said sorry, would you forgive her? I don't know. Maybe. Someday. He brushed her hair back from her face. But forgiving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you again. And right now, I need to protect us. Both of us. From Claire? From getting hurt again. Mia seemed to accept this, or at least stop pushing. She put the necklace in her treasure box and climbed under the covers, and Lucas read her 3 chapters of her current book before she fell asleep. But her questions stayed with him as he cleaned the kitchen, as he paid bills, as he lay in his own bed staring at the ceiling. Would he forgive her? Could he? The anger was still there, hot and righteous and valid. But underneath it, buried beneath the betrayal and the hurt, was something else. Something that remembered the way she'd laughed at Mia's jokes, the way she'd helped with homework without being asked, the way she'd looked at Lucas like he was worth something, the way she'd made him believe, for a brief, shining moment, that his life could be bigger than survival. He pulled out his phone and unblocked Claire's number one more time, scrolling through her messages. There were new ones sent over the past month that he hadn't seen. I know you don't want to hear from me. I just need you to know that I think about you and Mia every day. My lawyer told me you rejected the trust fund. I understand, but please reconsider. Not for me, for Mia. I saw that article about the town council meeting where they approved funding for the new playground. Mia must be thrilled. She always said the old one needed better swings. It's snowing in New York today. Made me think of the first snow in Millbrook, and Mia's face pressed against the window. I hope you're both well. The messages weren't begging or manipulative. They were just updates, observations, little pieces of her life offered up without expectation of response. Lucas read them all, then put his phone away without replying. He wasn't ready. Maybe he'd never be ready. But Mia's question echoed in his head, refusing to be silenced. If she said sorry, would you forgive her? He didn't have an answer, not yet. But for the first time since the truth had come out, he wasn't sure the answer was an automatic no. February brought a cold snap that felt personal, like the universe was matching Lucas's mood with below-freezing temperatures and wind that cut through every layer. He'd finally stopped checking Claire's messages, had finally accepted that this was just how things were now, him and Mia, getting by, the way they always had. Then Mia got sick again. It started as a cough that Lucas wrote off as lingering winter crud. But by Thursday, she was running a fever of 102 and complaining that her chest hurt when she breathed. The urgent care doctor took one listen to her lungs and sent them straight to the emergency room with a word that made Lucas's blood run cold. Pneumonia. They admitted her overnight for observation and IV antibiotics, and Lucas sat in a plastic chair beside her hospital bed, watching monitors beep and trying not to think about how much this was going to cost. His insurance was the bare minimum, high deductible, questionable coverage, and a hospital stay could easily run into thousands. But none of that mattered as much as the small girl in the bed, oxygen tube in her nose, looking smaller and more fragile than he'd ever seen her. Daddy? Her voice was scratchy, tired. Am I going to be okay? Yeah, Bug. The medicine's already helping. You'll be home before you know it. Can Grandma come visit? She'll be here first thing in the morning. It's late now, and you need to rest. Mia nodded, her eyes already drooping. Within minutes, she was asleep, and Lucas was alone with the beeping machines and his spiraling thoughts. His phone buzzed, his mother checking in. Then Jimmy offering to cover his shifts. Then, unexpectedly, a number he recognized even though he'd deleted the contact months ago. Claire.
The message was short. I heard about Mia. Is she okay? Please tell me she's okay. Lucas stared at it, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. How had she even found out? Millbrook was a small town, but surely news didn't travel all the way to New York that fast. He shouldn't respond, shouldn't engage. But it was 2 a.m, and he was scared and tired, and Mia was sick. And some part of him wanted to tell someone who would understand exactly how terrified he was. Pneumonia. They're keeping her overnight. She'll be fine. The response came immediately. I'm so sorry.
Is there anything I can do? No.
He put the phone away, but it buzzed again a minute later.
I know you don't want my help.
But please, Lucas, let me do something. Anything. There's nothing you can do from New York. I'm not in New York. I'm downstairs in the waiting room. Lucas's heart stopped. He read the message 3 times, certain he'd misunderstood. Then he was up, moving out of Mia's room, down the hall to the elevators, taking them down to the main floor, where the waiting room sat empty except for one person. Claire stood when she saw him, looking uncertain and exhausted, and exactly the same as she had 3 months ago. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than his truck, and her eyes were red like she'd been crying. What are you doing here? Lucas's voice came out harsher than he intended. I was in town. I heard Mia was in the hospital, and I needed to make sure she was okay. You were in town, in Millbrook. He didn't believe it for a second. Why? Claire looked down at her hands. Because I haven't been able to stay away. I've been coming back every few weeks, just driving through, seeing the places we went together. I know it's pathetic, but I couldn't help it.
You've been stalking us? No, I never tried to see you or Mia. I needed to feel close to the time when I was happy. Her voice broke. When I was real. Lucas wanted to be angry, wanted to yell at her for showing up here, for inserting herself back into their lives when he'd finally started to move on. But looking at her now, seeing the genuine anguish on her face, all he felt was tired. She's going to be okay, he said finally. Antibiotics are working. They'll probably release her tomorrow. That's good. Claire's voice wavered. I'm so glad. They stood there in the fluorescent lighting of the hospital waiting room, 2 people who'd been everything to each other for a brief moment, now strangers again. I should get back to her, Lucas said. Wait. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a small stuffed animal, a duck, soft and well-made. Nothing like the cheap toys from the hospital gift shop. Could you give this to her? Tell her it's from a friend who's thinking of her? Lucas took the duck, feeling its weight in his hands. She'll know it's from you. I know, but maybe that's okay. Claire met his eyes. I miss her, Lucas. I miss both of you so much it physically hurts. You should have thought about that before you lied to us. I know, I think about it every day. About how I had everything I'd ever wanted and I destroyed it because I was too scared to be honest. She wiped at her eyes. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. Lucas looked at this woman who'd turned his life upside down, who'd shown him what love could be and then ripped it away, and felt something in his chest shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something softer than the anger he'd been carrying. I should go, he said again. Okay. Claire stepped back, giving him space. Tell Mia I hope she feels better soon. Lucas nodded and headed back to the elevators, the stuffed duck in his hand. He didn't look back, but he could feel Claire watching him go. When he returned to Mia's room, she was awake, coughing softly into her oxygen mask. Hey, Bug. You okay? Thirsty. He helped her drink water through a straw, then showed her the duck. Someone left this for you. Mia's eyes lit up despite her exhaustion. Is it from Claire? Yeah, how'd you know? Because it's perfect. She hugged the duck to her chest. Was she here? Downstairs. She heard you were sick. Can I see her? She left already. The disappointment on Mia's face was immediate and crushing. But she said to tell you she hopes you feel better. I want to see her, Daddy. I want to tell her thank you. Maybe someday, Bug, but right now you need to rest and get better. Mia clutched the duck, and Lucas could see her fighting sleep, fighting the medicine and her body's need to heal. Daddy, do you still hate her? The question landed like a punch. I never hated her. But you're mad. Yeah, I'm mad. Can you be mad and still love someone? Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds. Lucas sat on the edge of her bed, careful of the IV line. Yeah, Bug, you can. It's complicated. Do you still love her? He should lie. Should give his daughter a simple answer that didn't require her to carry his emotional baggage. But looking at her earnest face, at those eyes that saw too much, he couldn't. I don't know, part of me does, part of me wants to, but the part that's supposed to protect us is still too scared. Mia seemed to think about this, her small fingers stroking the duck's soft fur. She made mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes. You tell me that all the time. This is different. Is it? You said mistakes are when you do something wrong, but you didn't mean to hurt anyone. Claire didn't mean to hurt us, right? She was just scared, like you're scared now. Lucas stared at his daughter, wondering when she'd gotten so wise. When did you grow up? I'm 7 3/4. That's basically 8. She yawned, the medication pulling her under. I think you should talk to her. Really talk, not the mad kind of talking. We'll see. Go to sleep now. But Mia was already out, the duck tucked under her chin, and Lucas sat there in the dim hospital room thinking about mistakes and fear and the terrible risk of letting someone in after they'd already hurt you. They released Mia the next afternoon with prescriptions and instructions to follow up with her pediatrician in a week. Linda came to help get them settled at home, fussing over Mia and shooting Lucas concerned looks that he pretended not to notice. The hospital bill arrived 3 days later, and it was exactly as catastrophic as Lucas had feared, $11,000 after insurance. He had $800 in savings. He spread out the paperwork on his kitchen table after Mia was asleep, staring at numbers that didn't add up no matter how he tried to make them work. Payment plan options that would take years, interest that would compound. The reality of medical debt in America, stark and cruel on white paper. His phone rang. The lawyer again, Torres. Mr. Reed, I know you've declined Ms. Hastings' previous offers, but she asked me to reach out one more time. She's aware of Mia's hospital stay and would like to cover the medical expenses. How does she know about the medical expenses? Lucas's voice was tight. She didn't tell me. I assume someone from the hospital mentioned it. Or perhaps she saw the billing information somehow. That's not really relevant. It's absolutely relevant. She's keeping tabs on us. Mr. Reed, with respect, she's concerned about a child she cares for who was seriously ill. That's not sinister. Torres's voice was patient. She's not trying to manipulate you. She just wants to help. I don't want her money. What do you want? Because from where I'm sitting, you want to provide for your daughter, and there's someone offering to help you do that. Your pride is getting in the way of Mia's welfare. The words hit like a slap because they were true. Lucas was choosing his anger over his daughter's needs, and that made him exactly the kind of stubborn, prideful idiot he'd always tried not to be. If I accept the money, she's going to think it means something, that we're open to reconciliation or something. Would that be so terrible? I don't know, maybe, probably. Lucas rubbed his face. She lied to us about everything. How do I trust someone like that? I can't answer that for you, but I can tell you that I've worked for Ms. Hastings for 3 years, and I've never seen her like this. She's gutted, Mr. Reed, genuinely destroyed by what she did to you and your daughter. Whatever her original intentions were, what she feels now is real. Lucas was quiet for a long moment. I need to think about it. Take your time. But Mr. Reed, consider that maybe she deserves a chance to make this right. Not because you owe her anything, but because everyone deserves the chance to fix their mistakes. After Torres hung up, Lucas sat in the silence of his apartment, the hospital bill in front of him, Mia's soft breathing audible from her room down the hall. Everyone deserves the chance to fix their mistakes. Did they? Did Claire? Did he? He thought about Mia's question. Can you be mad and still love someone? He thought about Claire's face in the hospital, the raw grief there, the way she'd looked at him like he was the only thing in the world that mattered. He thought about the duck tucked in Mia's arms, about the trust fund he'd rejected, about months of messages that never demanded anything, just offered small pieces of a life he'd been part of. And he thought about his own fear, his own pride, his own stubborn insistence on protecting himself at all costs. Maybe Mia was right. Maybe it was time to actually talk. He found Claire's number, still unblocked from the hospital, and typed a message before he could overthink it. We need to talk. Really talk. Can you come to Millbrook this weekend?
The response came within seconds. Yes, anything, when and where. Saturday, 2 p.m., Millbrook Park. Just you and me. Mia will be with my mother. I'll be there. Thank you, Lucas. He put the phone down and wondered if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life or the bravest decision. Saturday arrived cold and clear, the kind of February day that promised spring was thinking about showing up eventually. Lucas dropped Mia at his mother's with instructions to behave and strict orders not to call him every 5 minutes to check in. You're doing the right thing, Linda said, hugging him at the door. Talking is good. We'll see. He arrived at the park 15 minutes early, his stomach a knot of nerves and residual anger, and something that might have been hope. The playground was empty except for a few hardy souls walking dogs, the equipment dusted with frost. Claire showed up at exactly 2 o'clock, pulling up in a car that screamed money, but that she'd at least tried to make inconspicuous by choosing black instead of something flashy. She got out slowly, uncertain, dressed in jeans and a coat that was probably designer but looked normal enough. Hi, she said, stopping a few feet away. Hi. They stood there awkwardly, two people who'd once been so comfortable together, now strangers navigating the wreckage of what they'd been. Should we walk? Claire suggested. Lucas nodded, and they fell into step on the path that circled the park, the same path they'd walked dozens of times before everything fell apart. How's Mia? Claire asked. Better. Back to school this week. Still coughing a little, but the doctor says her lungs are clear. I'm glad. I was so worried. She loved the duck. Sleeps with it every night. A small smile crossed Claire's face, there and gone. Good. That's good. They walked in silence for a moment, and Lucas tried to figure out where to start, how to begin a conversation about betrayal and forgiveness, and whether love could survive when its foundation was built on lies. Why did you really do it? He asked finally. The whole fake identity thing. I read your letter, but I need to hear it from you. Claire took a breath, and when she spoke, her voice was raw. I was lonely. That sounds stupid coming from someone with everything, but I was so lonely I couldn't breathe. Every person in my life wanted something from me. My board wanted me to be my father. My friends wanted access to my money and my connections. Men wanted a trophy or a business opportunity. Nobody wanted just me. So you decided to catfish a small town? I decided to find out if I was capable of being loved for myself. If stripped of everything that made me valuable in my world, there was anything about me worth caring about. She looked at him. And then I met you, and you were kind for no reason, and you let me into your life, and I realized I'd found exactly what I was looking for. Someone who saw me, really saw me, and chose me anyway. Except I didn't see you. I saw the person you were pretending to be. Did you, though? Claire stopped walking, turning to face him. I wasn't pretending when I helped Mia with her homework. I wasn't pretending when I laughed at your terrible jokes, or when we cooked dinner together, or when I fell asleep on your couch watching TV. The only thing I lied about was my name and my bank account. Everything else was real. Your entire backstory was a lie, Claire. Where you came from, what you did, why you were here, all of it was fiction. My circumstances were a lie. My feelings weren't. She stepped closer. Lucas, I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust and Mia's trust, and that what I did was selfish and wrong. But I need you to understand that falling in love with you was never part of the plan. It just happened, despite everything I was trying to do. You should have told me. The second you realized this was becoming real, you should have been honest. I know. I was scared. Scared that if you knew who I really was, you'd look at me the way everyone else does, like a bank account instead of a person. Scared that what we had would disappear. Her voice broke. And I was right, wasn't I? The second you found out, you shut me out completely. Because you lied. I know I did. And I hate myself for it. I hate that I was so broken and so scared that I hurt the two people I care about most in this world. Tears were streaming down Claire's face now. I would give anything to go back and do it differently, to be honest from the start. But I can't. All I can do is stand here and tell you that I love you, and I love Mia, and I am so, so sorry. Lucas felt his own eyes burning. You don't get to just say you love us and have that fix everything. I know it doesn't fix anything, but it's the truth. It's the only truth that matters. She wiped at her face. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now.
I'm not even asking you to give me another chance. I just need you to know that what we had was real for me. You were real. Are real. The most real thing in my entire life. They stood there on the path, the February wind cutting through their coats, and Lucas felt something in him crumble.
The anger he'd been holding on to, the righteous fury that had sustained him through 3 months of hurt, it was still there, but it was buried under layers of grief and longing and the terrible understanding that he'd never really stopped loving her. "I don't know how to trust you again," he said quietly. "I don't know if I can." "Then let me earn it back. However long it takes, whatever I need to do. I'll prove to you that I'm worth the risk. And if you can't, if the damage is too big..." Claire's face crumpled, but she nodded. "Then at least I'll know I tried, that I fought for something real instead of running away." Lucas thought about Mia's words in the hospital. Everyone makes mistakes. He thought about his own fear, his own walls, his own desperate need to protect himself from being hurt again. And he thought about the months since Claire had left, the emptiness that had settled into his life like winter frost. "One chance," he heard himself say. "But we start over. From scratch. No more lies, no more secrets. Everything honest, even when it's hard." Hope flickered in Claire's eyes. "Everything honest, I swear. And slow. We go slow. I need time to trust you again, and Mia needs time to process everything. This isn't just going to be fixed overnight." "I understand. Whatever you need. And you need to tell me about your real life. The company, New York, all of it. No more Claire, the struggling temp worker. I need to know who you actually are." "Okay?" She took a shaky breath. "Where do you want me to start?" They started walking again, and Claire began to talk. She told him about growing up with money, but without much warmth, about a father who'd built an empire but hadn't known how to build a relationship with his daughter, about taking over Hastings Global at 26 and feeling completely overwhelmed, about the loneliness of being at the top, of making decisions that affected thousands of people while having no one to come home to who cared about her day. Lucas listened, asking questions, and slowly the woman beside him stopped being Claire the enigma and became Claire the person, complicated and flawed and human in ways that money couldn't fix. "What happens now?" she asked when they'd circled the park twice and the sun was starting to sink toward the horizon. "With the company, I mean. Are you just abandoning it to be here?" "I'm restructuring, promoting my VP to CEO, staying on as chairman, but stepping back from day-to-day operations. I can work remotely for the board meetings I need to attend." She looked at him carefully. "I'm moving to Millbrook. I already put an offer on a house on Birch Street." Lucas stopped walking. "You're moving here. I told you I was serious about earning your trust back. I can't do that from New York." She hurried on before he could protest. "I'm not doing it just for you. I'm doing it for me too. The time I spent here was the happiest I've been in years. I want that life. The real one, not the fake one I created." "Claire, you can't just uproot your entire life." "Why not? What am I leaving behind that matters? A company that will run fine without me? An apartment that's never felt like home? Friends who only call when they want something?" She shook her head. "Everything that matters to me is here. You and Mia and the possibility of building something real. What if it doesn't work out? What if we try this and it falls apart? Then at least I'll have tried. At least I'll know I chose something real over something easy." She reached for his hand tentatively, and when he didn't pull away, she squeezed gently. "I'm all in, Lucas. The question is whether you can be too." He looked at their joined hands, at the woman who'd turned his world upside down twice now, and felt the last of his resistance crumble. "I'm terrified," he admitted. "Me too. If you hurt Mia again, I won't. I swear on everything I have, I won't." Her grip tightened. "She's the best thing that's ever happened to me, aside from you. I would rather cut off my own arm than hurt her." Lucas believed her. He could see it in her eyes, hear it in her voice, the bone-deep sincerity of someone who'd learned exactly what they stood to lose. "Okay," he said. "We try. Slow and careful and honest. We try." Claire's smile could have lit up the entire park. Thank you for giving me this chance. Don't thank me yet, you've got a lot to prove." "I know, I'm ready." They walked back to the parking lot as the sun set. painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and Lucas felt something he hadn't felt in months: hope. The next few weeks were strange and tentative and occasionally awkward. Claire came to dinner on Wednesday, sitting across from Mia, who peppered her with questions about being rich and what kind of car she drove and whether she had a private jet. "I do have a jet," Claire admitted, "but I'm selling it. Seems excessive for one person." "Can we ride in it first?" Mia asked. "Mia," Lucas warned. "What?" "It's a reasonable question." Claire laughed, and the sound filled Lucas's apartment in a way that made it feel like home again. "Maybe, if your dad says it's okay." They were careful around each other, Lucas and Claire, navigating the space between what they'd been and what they might become. She told him about her day, about the house she was buying, about the culture shock of transitioning from CEO to small-town resident. He told her about work, about Mia's latest school drama, about the ordinary details of his life that felt significant when shared with someone who cared. The trust fund came up one evening after Mia was in bed. "I know you don't want it," Claire said, sitting on Lucas's couch with careful distance between them. "But I need you to understand that it's not about charity. It's about giving Mia opportunities. I can provide for my daughter. I know you can. But why should you have to choose between her future and your present? Why should she have to limit her dreams based on what you can afford?" Claire leaned forward. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Let me do something meaningful with it. Let me invest in a brilliant kid who deserves every opportunity in the world." Lucas wanted to argue, wanted to cling to his pride, but he thought about Mia's future, about college and opportunities, and the difference that money could make. "It can't be a thing between us," he said finally. "The money, it can't be something you hold over me or use to make decisions. It won't be. It's Mia's, held in trust until she's 18. Neither of us can touch it." "And you're okay with that? Giving away that kind of money with no strings?" Claire met his eyes. "Lucas, I would give away every cent I have if it meant I could be part of your lives. The money means nothing. You and Mia mean everything." He believed her. Slowly, carefully, he was learning to believe her again. March brought warmer weather and the first signs of spring, and with it, a shift in their relationship. Claire moved into her house on Birch Street, a modest 3-bedroom that cost more than Lucas would make in a lifetime, but that she decorated with Target furniture and art from local shops. Mia helped her pick out curtains, declaring that Claire had no sense of color coordination and needed her artistic expertise. They had dinner together most nights, sometimes at Lucas's apartment, sometimes at Claire's house, falling into rhythms that felt natural and earned. Claire learned to cook basic meals with Mia's enthusiastic assistance. Lucas taught her how to change a tire when hers went flat in a grocery store parking lot. They went to Mia's school play together, sitting in the audience like a family, and afterward took her for ice cream even though it was barely 50 degrees outside. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when Lucas's old hurt would surface, when he'd see Claire pull out her phone to handle some business call and remember that she lived in a world completely different from his. There were times when Claire would slip and mention something from her past that didn't match the story she'd told, and they'd have to stop and talk through it, peeling back layers of old lies to get to truth. But they were trying, really trying. One evening in late March, after Mia had gone to bed, Lucas and Claire sat on his couch with the comfortable closeness of people who were learning to trust each other again. "Can I ask you something?" Lucas said. "Always." "Do you ever regret it? The lying, I mean. If you could go back and do it differently, would you?" Claire was quiet for a long moment. "I regret hurting you. I regret the damage I caused. But if I'd walked into that diner and introduced myself as Claire Hastings, billionaire, CEO, would you have given me a chance?" "I don't know. Probably not." "Exactly. So I can't regret the path that led me to you, even if the path was wrong. I just regret that I didn't have the courage to be honest sooner." She turned to face him. "Does that make sense?" "Yeah, it does." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and he put his arm around her, and they sat like that in the quiet of his apartment, healing slowly but surely. April arrived with rain and flowers and Mia's science fair project, which involved testing whether plants grew better with music. Claire funded the project with proper equipment, Lucas supervised the actual science, and Mia named all 15 plants after breakfast foods and talked to them daily.
Waffle is doing really well with classical music, she reported one evening, but Bacon seems to prefer rock. Of course he does, Claire said seriously. Bacon has edge. Lucas watched them together, his daughter and the woman he was learning to love again, and felt something settle in his chest. This was real, imperfect and complicated, and built on the ruins of something that had fallen apart, but real.
The conversation about their relationship status came in mid-April, after 3 months of careful rebuilding. They were at Claire's house, Mia asleep in the guest room after a movie night, and Lucas was helping clean up popcorn kernels from the couch. "So," Claire said, trying for casual and missing. "Where are we? I mean, us. Are we dating? Friends? Something else?" Lucas smiled at her nervousness. "What do you want to be?" "I want to be with you, officially, if you're ready." He thought about it, about the months of rebuilding, about the trust they'd earned back piece by piece, about the fact that Mia had already started calling Claire her almost mom and asking when they were going to make it official. "Yeah," he said, "I'm ready. But we tell Mia together. Make it clear what this means." "Which is?" "That we're choosing each other, that we're building something together, that we're a family." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "A family. If you want that, I want that more than anything." They told Mia the next morning over pancakes, and her reaction was to shriek with joy, fling herself at both of them, and demand to know if this meant she could be in the wedding. "Wedding?" Lucas choked on his coffee. "Well, yeah. If you're together, you're going to get married, right? That's what people do." Claire was trying not to laugh. "How about we take things one step at a time, Mia?" "Fine. But I'm going to be the flower girl. I'm calling it now." Life settled into a new normal after that. Lucas and Claire navigated the complexities of blending their lives. Her wealth and his working-class reality, her board meetings and his garage shifts, her past in New York and his roots in Millbrook. It wasn't always easy. There were arguments about money, about how much Claire could help without making Lucas feel like a charity case. There were moments when the gap between their worlds felt insurmountable, but there were more moments when it didn't matter. When they were just Lucas and Claire, making dinner together while Mia did homework at the kitchen table. When they were watching her at the playground, arguing about whether she was too old for the baby swings. When they were curled up on the couch after she was asleep, talking about everything and nothing, building the kind of intimacy that came from choosing each other every single day. Summer arrived with heat and the end of the school year and Mia's 8th birthday in June. They celebrated with a party at the park, the same park where everything had started. And Lucas watched Claire help coordinate games and cut cake and realized that she'd become completely integrated into their life. His mother adored her. Jimmy's wife had declared her good people. Even Barbara Chen, who'd been skeptical at first, had come around after Claire volunteered to help with the town's small business initiative. Millbrook had accepted her, not as Claire Hastings, the billionaire, but as Claire Reed's girlfriend, Mia's almost mom, the woman who'd made mistakes but was working hard to fix them. In July, on a Tuesday evening that felt like any other, Lucas asked Claire to marry him. They were at his apartment, which was becoming their apartment since she stayed there more than at her own house. And Mia was at summer camp. Claire was cooking dinner while Lucas pretended to help, but mostly just got in the way. "Hey," he said, suddenly nervous. "Can you turn around for a second?" She turned, spatula in hand, and found him on one knee with a ring that had cost him 3 months of overtime, but that he'd chosen carefully, a simple band with a small diamond that caught the light. "Lucas, let me say this before I lose my nerve." He took a breath. "I loved you when I thought you were broke and passing through town. I loved you when I found out who you really were and hated myself for it. I loved you when I was trying not to love you. And I love you now, knowing everything. The good and the bad and the complicated. I want to build a life with you, a real one, with all the mess and the beauty and the everyday moments that make it matter. So Claire Hastings, will you marry me?" She was crying, nodding, dropping the spatula and falling to her knees in front of him. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes. Yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, and it tasted like salt and joy in coming home. They told Mia the next day, and her response was to dance around the living room singing, "I Told You So," at the top of her lungs. You did tell us so, Claire agreed, laughing. You're very wise. I know, it's a burden. Mia examined the ring critically. It's pretty, but can we talk about the wedding? Because I have ideas. The wedding happened in September, a year after they'd first met. Small and simple. In the park where Lucas had first bought Claire dinner, with Mia as flower girl and half of Millbrook in attendance. Claire wore a dress that cost less than her usual wardrobe, but that made her look radiant. Lucas wore his only suit, the one he'd bought for Sarah's funeral, and hadn't worn since. They said their vows under a September sky, promising honesty and patience and choosing each other every day. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Mia cheered loudly enough to make the ducks fly away, and everyone laughed. At the reception, catered by Martha's Kitchen, because Claire had insisted on supporting local businesses, Lucas's mother gave a toast that made everyone cry, and Jimmy made a speech that was equal parts touching and embarrassing. Claire's VP had flown in from New York, looking completely out of place in Millbrook, but genuinely happy for her boss, who'd found something worth more than money. Later, after the cake was cut and the dancing was done, and Mia had fallen asleep on a pile of coats, Lucas and Claire stood at the edge of the park, watching the sunset. "You okay?" he asked, pulling her close. "More than okay. This was perfect. Not what you imagined for your wedding, I bet."
When you were a little rich girl dreaming about your future. She turned to look at him. Actually, it's exactly what I imagined. The real me, underneath all the money and the expectations. This is what I always wanted, to be loved for who I am, not what I have. To be part of something bigger than myself. To matter to someone the way you and Mia matter to me. You matter to us, more than you know. I'm starting to believe that. She leaned up and kissed him. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for fighting for us, for not giving up when I shut you out. I couldn't give up. You're my home, Lucas, you and Mia, this life we're building. It's the only thing that's ever felt real. They stood there as the light faded, married and together, and building a future neither of them had expected, but both of them had chosen. In the end, it wasn't about the money or the lies or the dramatic revelation. It was about two broken people who'd found each other, made mistakes, hurt each other, and then chosen to try anyway. It was about learning that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about being honest, even when it was hard. About showing up, even when you were scared. About choosing each other over and over again, until the choosing became as natural as breathing. Lucas had learned that asking for more wasn't stupid. It was brave. That his small life could expand to include extraordinary things without losing what made it matter. Claire had learned that wealth couldn't buy connection, but vulnerability could build it. That being seen for who you really were was terrifying and necessary and worth every risk. And Mia had learned that families came in all shapes, that love could survive mistakes, and that she'd been right all along. Sometimes people just needed a second chance to get it right. As they drove home that night, Mia asleep in the back seat with her duck tucked under her arm, Claire's hand in Lucas's on the center console. It felt like the ending of one story and the beginning of another. One built on truth instead of lies, on choice instead of chance, on the radical act of letting someone see you completely and trusting them to stay anyway. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was real and chosen and theirs. And that was more than enough.